DeGarmo is a dynamic speaker and informative trainer on the foster care system and travels extensively across the globe, meeting with foster parents, child welfare workers, churches, schools, and organizations. Dr. John has appeared on several TV programs, including CNN, HLN, Good Morning America, ABC Freeform, CBS, and others. He writes regularly for many magazines and is a regular contributor to the Huffington Post, several publications and newsletters for both in the United States and overseas.
Dr. DeGarmo is married to Dr. Kelly DeGarmo, who hails from Australia, and the two of them have 6 children, both biological and adoptive. Dr. John DeGarmo and his wife are also currently foster parents to 3 siblings, bringing their household to 9 children. Dr. DeGarmo has been a foster parent for dozens of children for over a decade now. He has a passion for foster children and is driven to bring education and insight into general society about all things foster care.
Wow, wonderful. Dr. DeGarmo and his wife are recipients of the Good Morning America Ultimate Hero Award and Up With the People Everyday Hero Award. The two also were honored with their City's Citizens of the Year Award.
Please, let's all join me to welcome Dr. John DeGarmo.
That was just too long. God, it's too much too long. Hey, thanks for having me here. So glad I could be here today with you. You know, I got to tell you a funny story. 2 funny stories. One not so funny. But so 2 weeks ago, I was in Boise, Idaho speaking, and I arrived in I think Salt Lake City for a layover, and the plane broke. So we waited for 2 hours at the tarmac. They put us on another plane. Finally made it to Idaho Falls at 2 o'clock in the morning their time, which is about 5 a.m. our time. I got to the hotel. They didn't have room for me. I said, well, please. So they finally found room for me. It was 2:30 in the morning. I go to my room. I put the key in the door. I walk 2 steps in, 1, 2, and someone says, "Hey, buddy, I'm in here." I said, "What?" Yeah, I'm sleeping, go away. Oh! And no thank you, no I'm sorry, no I apologize. I was just so shocked, I was stunned. So I walked out there, went downstairs to the lobby, and the lady's on the phone saying, I'm so sorry. She finally said to me, I'm so sorry. I said, don't worry about it happens all the time. Then I said, you know what, that doesn't happen all the time. So last night, when I got to the hotel here, I went to the room, and the first thing I did was, hello, before I walked in. Yesterday, as I was leaving, walking to the car, and one of my kids comes up to me and says, Daddy, my sister fell down the stairs, she hurt her arm. So I went and looked at it and said, okay, well, you know, it looks to be okay, I don't know. But I gotta go, tell your mom. She broke her arm. 5-year-old girl. There you go, all right. Hey, I never planned on being a foster parent. Never anticipated it, never had any idea, never had any vision, never had any goals, never thought about it whatsoever. I had 2 misconceptions about foster care. A, foster kids are weird kids. B, foster parents are weird people. I got one thing right. Foster parents are weird people. We have to be a little bit weird to do what we do, right? It is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 365-day job. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. Hardest thing I've ever done. How many of you are here with your spouse today? Raise your hand. None of you are with your spouse today? A few of you. Okay, a few of you. Well, you're on a date right now. Right? Absolutely. And you're on a date with me. Well, that's a little bit unfortunate. But, yeah, sure, it is very, very challenging. You know, I met my wife. As I said, we were traveling in a group called Up With People. She was from Australia, I was from America. And actually during the year, she was dating a guy from Germany, and I was dating a girl from Sweden, and at some point we recognized, hey, we both speak the same language, it'll be a lot easier if we get together. So we did, got married, lived in Australia. Our first child died of a condition called anencephaly, or some pronounce it anencephaly. It's a condition where the brain of the skull never truly formed. And my wife was in labor for 92 hours. And I turned my back on a lot of things. I was just filled with a lot of pain, a lot of grief. My wife grieved in a healthy fashion. I did not. I did not. Years later, we moved back to America. We actually flew into Atlanta, Georgia with a 3-week-old baby. We had no house, no car, no job. Didn't know anybody in Georgia. Had never visited Georgia before in our life. We came on 2 principles: my wife's faith and my dream career, which I'm not allowed to tell you because my wife's so embarrassed by it. All I can say is that it was an entertainment. I was not a stripper. Years later, I started working in a high school. I was teaching English and drama and history in a very, very rural setting in middle Georgia. And I kept noticing a lot of kids, a lot of my students coming through my classroom with a lot of the same issues. Bad attendance, problems with academics, bad grades, poor behavior. And I kept asking myself, why is this? I'm seeing this over and over again. What is the problem? And then I met some of the birth parents. And I realized, it starts in the home. So I went to my wife and I said to her, hey, one of my students, she's 17, one of my students is pregnant with triplets. What if I brought those triplets home? And I wish I had listened to my wife at the time, because the only thing she said to me was, as long as you buy the diapers. I wish I knew that. I wish I had really listened to it, because I have been changing diapers for 21 years non-stop. No joke. I should have got a doctorate in diaper changing. So that led to foster parenting classes. That led to writing a bunch of books and traveling the world speaking and doing what I do. And this is my family today. I've adopted 3 from foster care. Can you tell which 3 I've adopted? So this one right here, on the left-hand side, with an interesting-looking shirt there. She came to us when she was 5 days of age. She was our first crack baby. And she was born in our hospital. And I live in a small town of 2,000 people where everybody knows the Australian. And the guy married to the Australian, all right? They also know because for so long we were one of 2 foster parents in our entire county. And by the way, we've had over 55 kids come through our home during the past 16 years. I've had as young as 27 hours of age and as old as 18 years of age. I've had as many as 11 in my house at the same time. And I've had as many as 7 in diapers at the same time, which I think should be illegal in all 50 states, by the way. So when I tell you, as a foster parent, you will appreciate this. Foster parents, you'll appreciate this. I go to work to rest. Right? So she came to us when she was 5 days of age, and I didn't want to adopt her. Now, the reason why I didn't want to adopt her was because I had lost my first child. I recognized the miracle of birth, how precious life was. I felt, and I had three healthy children after that. I felt that if I adopted her, I would be taking her away from somebody else who could not have children. And I really struggled with that. 22 months later, she did come up for adoption, and fortunately, my entire church, community, workplace, our town, my friends' family, they kept telling me, this is your daughter, and I was so grateful and so wonderful, I was so blessed to adopt her. Now, you're going to find throughout this year that I am one of those foster parents who does not take life too seriously. I'm always cracking jokes. When we signed the I'm the guy, when the caseworker comes to our house, I'm the guy who is making jokes and always kicking me under the table on my leg. That's me, okay? So when we signed the papers for the adoption papers for this child, I'm just boo-hooing, crying. I'm such an emotional cripple. Since I became a foster parent, I am such an emotional cripple. The ponytails came to us when she was a year and a half old, 18 months of age. She is third generation foster care, which means her mother was in foster care and her grandparents were in foster care. Her biological mother was prostituted out, pimped out by her birth father at age 9. The cycle just continued. The birth mother actually gave her to a stranger at a grocery store, and that's why she came to us. She was, I mean, mean as a snake. Mean as a snake. She knew one word: shut up. That's all she said. Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. In our house, no, we don't say that word. It's a taboo word. And she hid everything in sight. Just mean as a snake. Now, she is the most obnoxiously sweet child you will ever meet. She's all about three things. Is it pink? Does it have a tutu? And does it have a crown? Princess crown. She'll say things like, Daddy, the spaghetti stain in your shirt is so beautiful. Thank you. Daddy, the cut in your face is so adorable. Thank you. Daddy, your messed up hair looks so handsome. And it's all she's all about. It shows me a lot about environment. But guess what? I didn't want to adopt her because I'm thinking that's 5 kids. By the way, when you have as many as 11 children in your house, you are so far past the Brady Bunch level. And my wife and I do not have an Alice. And I spoke to my wife last night, and she said to me, don't forget, ask somebody if they want to be our Alice. So if there's anybody who wants to come home with us and be our Alice, I will take care of your plane ticket, okay? This is my wife's request. People say, we don't have any help. There's no help in our house. My wife and I do it. When we come home from work, then it's real work. Laundry, the dishes, the homework, etc., etc., etc. So people say to me all the time, I don't know how you do it. And I say, heavy drugs. And they say, but you look so young. Lots of surgery, and this is a weave right here. So I didn't want a doctor. That was July of one year. The following April, caseworker comes to our house and says, Dr. John, Dr. Kelly, the mom's going to have a baby. And my wife said, hooray! I said, no. So I'm thinking 6 kids, 5 daughters. Oh my gosh, 5 marriages. Holy cow. How am I going to do this? And my wife said, can we adopt both at the same time? The caseworker said, that's exactly why I'm here. I said, no. And my wife said, well, when's the baby born? Baby's born in July. They're going back and forth. And I said, I'm still in the room. I said, no. My wife said, just ignore him. He'll change his mind. 3 months later, it's July. My wife and I have been planning for 1 year a huge reunion of the people we had traveled with and up with people. We had 72 people coming from 5 different continents to spend 5 days in Northeast Georgia mountains where we rented this lodge up there. And I was so excited. I had not seen some of these people in 20 years. The morning the reunion started, the very morning, phone call rings. I thought this could be Kahunia from Africa. It could be Satomi from Japan. It could be Hari from Finland. Who is it? Who is it? Who is it? Pick up the phone, and a very familiar voice said, Dr. John. I said, no. She said, the mother had a baby this morning. I said, put it back in, put it back in. And some of you think this is funny. 27 hours later, they drove to Northeast Georgia mountains. They gave the baby to us and said, we know where you live. We'll see you in 5 days. Have a nice time. We didn't sign any paperwork whatsoever. That's how desperate they were. And a year later, I was fortunate to adopt both of those daughters. And my life is so blessed. The mom just had another baby. I don't bother saying no anymore, right? Why should I? But in truth, I've actually had 4 failed adoptions. So I've experienced that as well. In our house, I don't do labels. I do not do labels. There's no biological, there's no adoptive, there's no foster child in my house. They are all my children, and I give them what they need the most. And I think that is unconditional love. We do not have labels of black and white. I tell people, well, this is white, and I'm not that color, never seen by this color. We are just all the same color, just different shades of God's skin in our house. Recently, I had That gets me in trouble sometimes, but again, I don't do labels. Recently, I was at the grocery store with the 3 youngest. We call them DeGarmo 2.0. And this lady's staring. I mean, she's just staring. She's just staring! Staring! Finally, she said, "Are they your kids?" I said, "Yes, ma'am, I have really recessive genes." About a month ago, somebody said to me, "Is your daughter mixed?" She's fully human. This morning, we are going to talk about feelings of grief and loss. Oh, I need to show you this picture. Yes, this happened 2 days ago. 2 days ago. I'm all about giving every single child in my house, whatever background they come from, every opportunity. Every opportunity. The kids in foster care at my house, they are on the wrestling team, they're on the track team, they're in cross country, they're singing the church choir, they're in the debate team. They do all these things because I believe they need all those experiences. Because this is what families do. So my 3-year-old child in foster care at 3 years of age, just started learning how to color. 2 days ago, she found a rock and wanted to color on my car. Yeah, oh no. Yeah, that's crayon against the car. That is the life of a foster parent, amen? Yes. Just had to share that with you, because internally, I'm screaming, "Oh my God!" All right, so today we're going to talk about the awareness of feelings of trauma and stress for those involved in foster care during a time of transition. You probably hear the same thing I hear from people all the time. "I couldn't do what you do. It would hurt too much to what? To get the kids back." How many of you hear that? Hear it all the time. I tell them this. That's how it's supposed to be. That's how it's supposed to be. These children need stability, yes, they need security, yes, but what they need more than anything else is for me to love them unconditionally with all that I have. With all that I have. So that when they do leave my home, yes, my heart breaks. My heart breaks. And I cry. I cry. I grieve. But I am grateful for the opportunity to cry for these children. Because I might be the first person who has ever loved them so much in a healthy, unconditional way that I've cried for them. And that is a wonderful opportunity. My wife has said the last 7 or 8 years, when a child leaves their home, she says the same thing over and over again. "I'm not doing this again." Not because it's the hardest thing I've ever done, and it is the hardest thing I've ever done, but because of these feelings of grief and loss. Just recently, we had 3 children in our house. 4-year-old girl, 2-year-old girl, 1-year-old boy. Siblings. All raped repeatedly by their grandfather. Their grandfather is actually their biological father because he'd been raping his own daughter to produce these children. When the 4-year-old girl came to our house, she could not speak one word. All she did was went, Lots of issues for these children, lots of challenges for these children, but it did not matter because I loved them unconditionally and they were part of my family. We were actually trying to adopt one of the kids. The other 2 were going to go, the younger 2 were going to go to a different father, different biological father. I'm sorry, a different grandparent. And we were going to get the older one. At the last minute, you know how it is, last minute, the adoption fell through at the very, very last moment. And I recall coming home to my house 3 weeks later, and my wife was on the bathroom floor, broken down in tears. 3 weeks later, experiencing those feelings of overwhelming grief and loss. It is very, very real for foster parents. But most of society does not understand what you do. Your friends and your family members do not truly appreciate what you do. They don't get it. You live such a different lifestyle. I believe a lifestyle of a foster parent is the lifestyle of sacrifice. You don't get to go out on a date on a whim, or to the movies on a whim, or on vacation on a whim. You don't get to do these things. I teach a very, very popular session called Marriage and Foster Parenting, Making It Work. I actually have an online training webinar about it. I just did it in Idaho 2 weeks ago, this seminar. And one of the things I talk about it is and this is how you need to have date time for your as foster parents. My wife and I went 5 years without a date. Our date was really about once a month for 20 minutes, Sunday morning, between 10:30 and 10:50, when our kids were in where? Anybody know? Sunday school. And we went, anybody know, guess where we went together? A day, grocery store for 20 minutes, let's see what's nice. That's it. You're going to increase awareness of trauma and stress and grief and loss and how it impacts their lives, and you're going to gain an understanding and develop strategies designed to aid with those feelings. Now, on any given day in America, there are roughly 500,000 children in foster care. The number is growing and growing and growing by the day. America is actually in a foster care crisis right now. I'm writing about it often right now. The numbers of children being placed in care are growing at a huge rate. In some states, they're nearly doubling. Where I'm from, in Georgia, 2 years ago, 7,000 kids in foster care. End of 2018, they're expected to have 17,000 children in foster care. Right now, we're over 15,000. Mainly due to one thing. Anybody know what the one thing placing more children in foster care right now is? The opioid epidemic, yes. According to a study by the Casey Families program, which I love to work with, I've worked with them often, but they did a study in 2011 that says about 48% of children in foster care have emotional or behavioral problems, and 63% are victims of neglect. I'm here to tell you that study is way off. You're here to tell me that 48% of children in foster care have emotional or behavioral problems? I would suggest to you that number is closer to what? 100%. 100%. I want you to imagine a 7-year-old girl late at night without any explanation whatsoever. The caseworker shows up, perhaps the police officer shows up. She's taken from her mother. She's taken from her father. Perhaps she's taken from her siblings. Her stuffed animals, her toys, her pets, her bedroom, her house, her home, her neighbors, her schoolmates, her teachers, her relatives, if she goes to church, maybe her church, everything she knows, late at night, without any explanation whatsoever, placed into a strange home with strange people and told, this is your new house, this is your new home, good night. What does that 7-year-old girl do? I'll tell you exactly what she does. What she's done in my house over and over and over again. She asks these questions. Why am I here? When do I go home? When do I see mommy next? Is it my fault that daddy touches me at night? Is it my fault that mommy hits me? And then, when I struggle to answer those questions, she cries herself to sleep. The next morning she wakes up, she doesn't know where the kitchen is. She doesn't know she's allowed to eat because she's not had breakfast in a long time. It's not part of her regular routine. She goes to a strange school with hundreds of strange people. She's given spelling words, a book to read, a little bit of math. She goes to a cafeteria and all the students are laughing. She thinks they're laughing at her. Somebody bumps her into the hall and her books spill all over the floor and she screams, I want to go home! That is the reality of a child in foster care. It is traumatic being placed into our homes. It took me a while as a foster parent to appreciate that. I was just like you. I did all that training. I had been a teacher. I had children of my own. My wife's first degree was one in psychology. I felt, hey, I'm going to be a great foster parent. I recognized within the first 20 minutes that, oh my gosh, I am not prepared for this at all. I was not ready for it. And then, 5 months later, when my first 2 girls left my home, I realized, oh my gosh, I am not prepared for this at all. What is happening to my heart? It hurts. These children are taken from their family, from their home, their school, everything that's unfamiliar to them. A time of tremendous uncertainty. For some children, it is a time of guilt. Well, we got the call one night, the call. And I'm the guy who asks all the questions. I have to recognize as a foster parent very, very quickly if my home is the best home, if my home is the best environment for these children. Because guess what, foster parents? Sometimes you are not the best placement for every single child. And it is okay for you sometimes to say, I'm sorry, we can't take this child. It's not the best setting. For example, a few weeks ago we got a phone call for a 14-year-old girl who had 2 abortions. I said no immediately, because I recognized that when my wife is at work and during the summertime when I'm at home with my children, all she needed to do was say one thing about my son or about me, and we were done. We were done. My son's life will be destroyed forever. I told the caseworker there is a better environment for this child. Perhaps a single foster mother, or perhaps a foster family with no children, or older children, whatever it may be. So it's okay sometimes to say no. So I need to recognize very quickly, is my home the best environment? Can I provide what this child needs? Do I have the resources for this child? Do my own children, will be in jeopardy by this? So I ask those questions. I have all these questions in the book, The Foster Parenting Manual. You can see them in there, but I got a list of questions. So we got the call, and I said to the caseworker, well, how's the child? He's 13 years of age. Why is he in care? How long will he be with us? And I got the phone call. I told the caseworker, I said, well, let me talk about my wife. We'll pray about it. We always pray about everyone. And I'll get back to you. And my wife said, okay. We talked to our own kids, and they knew this boy. They knew this boy from school. Tremendously bright. I mean, Harvard, Duke, Yale bright. Huge troublemaker. 3 fights in the last week. Was 1 step away from alternative school. I'm sorry, from youth detention center. I said to my kids, well, what do you think about him? Dad, he'll be fine. We're fine. He's no problem. Okay, called the caseworker back. They said, we'll take him. She said, well, if you take 1, will you take 2? Oh, okay. We're going here, okay. Call my way back. What do you think? Pray about it? Okay. Call back. Yeah, we'll take 2. Well, if you take 2, will you take 3? What are you doing? I said, what are you doing? What's going on? She said, it's a group of 5. 5? Oh my gosh. This was the first time we were at 11. By the way, when we go to church on Sunday mornings, we're like the clown car. Because kids just coming out of the car, coming out of the car. How many of you are a 2-car family wherever you go? Yes, yes. Took all 5. Their house had no electricity, no plumbing, no water, no heat, no air, no food. You could not see the floor in the house according to the 3 deputies and the caseworker I spoke to, because the floor was covered in human and dog feces. You could not put your hand on a counter covered in human and dog feces. They found the mother naked in bed with one of her 2 teenage boyfriends and the 7-year-old daughter, all naked, bed covered in human and dog feces. 2 of the deputies told me, personally, they walked out of the house vomiting. They were so disgusted by it. When the 5 children came to our house, they had that deer in the headlight look. Their clothes were stapled together, and we had to burn the clothes because the clothes are contaminated with meth, which their parents were producing, and feces. The 13-year-old boy had such guilt. He was in charge of the family finances, while his mother is strung out on meth and making meth with the 2 teenage boyfriends and the numerous fathers. None of them are in the picture. He's in charge of keeping his family together. He's in charge of feeding his younger siblings who depended upon him. When he was going to school, he was unleashing all of his pent-up anxieties and fears and concerns and lashing out. When he came to us, he felt he had let his siblings down. Tremendous guilt. I'm happy to say that he is now a freshman in August in Savannah College. Very excited about it. Very excited about it. Sometimes these kids have the inability to express themselves. So when the kids come to our house, we go down to the car, we meet the child, we introduce the child to ourselves. I introduce myself as Mr. John, my wife's Miss Kelly. We allow the kids to call themselves whatever they want. Papa John, Uncle John, Daddy John, Dr. John, whatever it may be. We do not insist that they call us Mommy and Daddy. Please do not do that. No, 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 no. I'm not their daddy. My wife's not their mommy. If they want to call us that, fine. So we introduce ourselves to kids, we take them inside. It's goats, pigs, a pony. We have a little bit of animal therapy going on in our house, a little farm. And then we always end it with homemade chocolate chip cookies and a glass of milk, because who doesn't love homemade chocolate chip cookies and milk? Well, my wife and I signed the paperwork. Well, we did all this, and for this 4-year-old boy and this 6-month-old sister, this was our first meth baby. How many of you have had meth babies? Babies born into meth. How many of you had that? Doctors are finding out now that meth is such a heinous, heinous, heinous drug. One take of meth by the user begins to rewire the brain permanently. The more the drug is taken by the user, the more the brain is rewired permanently. That's why meth addicts are so strongly addicted to the drug, nothing else matters. The drug is more important to them than food or water. If you're brave, tonight you'll go home and Google image meth addict. What you see, what it does to the body, the face, is something out of a horror science fiction film. Well, imagine what it does to the baby as the brain is being permanently rewired. Doctors are finding out these babies are highly agitated and highly frustrated. So what does that do for a little baby? Those meth babies, anybody have them in your house before? Show me hands. They scream. They scream and scream and scream as their bodies are racked with pain. So I'm holding the baby and helping with dinner. My wife's giving the 4-year-old a bath. Because for sometimes this kid's first bath they've had in a long time, right? So my wife's giving a bath, and like I said, doing laundry, homework, cooking, holding the baby. And we had, I think we had 9 kids at the house at the time. And I heard my wife say, John. I said, I'll be there in a minute. She said, John. I could hear the urgency in her voice. So I gave the baby to my oldest daughter in the bathroom, and there is my wife over at the bathtub, and tears are streaming down her face. I said, what is it? What is it? She did this. So what? She said one word. Look. And she parted back this 4-year-old boy's blonde hair, and there were black circular marks on his scalp. Cigarette burns. By his mother. Now, why would his mother burn him with cigarettes here? Well, to hide the evidence. But that's not the only place his mother hid the evidence. This 4-year-old boy had cigarette burns, scalp, roof of his mouth, his tongue, and his genitals. His mother burning her 4-year-old son with cigarettes on his tongue and his genitals. And for me as a human being, I get very angry instantly. And as a Christian, I have to remind myself, this is a child of God. God loves her just as much as he loves me. And I also have to remind myself that this is probably something that their birth parents are struggling with themselves. Maybe generational pain. This boy had no emotion. No fear, no anxiety, no surprise, no anger, no frustration, no concern, no curiosity, nothing. He was like talking to the wall right there. He had been so traumatized by his mother at a young age, he had completely withdrawn, had no emotion. He showed emotion one time. I write about it in my book, Fostering Love, but the rest of the time it was a blank slate. Could not express himself. Funny story about him. In my book, Fostering Love, and the sequel, Love and Mayhem, I changed all the names of the kids, except for his. He's now been adopted, his name's been changed. But when he came to us, his name was Espin. Anybody know how you spell Espin? E-S-P-N, capital E, capital S, capital P, capital N. I thought, okay. So his name is part of the story. So I thought, when I'm writing this new book, I thought, well, I should change it to CNN. Ken? No, that's not going to work. MTV? No, that's not going to work. Fox? No, no one's going to like that. Okay, what do I? So I kept it in it, and it has been changed. But very, very unusual. For so many times, these kids, when they come into care, they simply do not understand why they've been placed into our homes. It is a time of tremendous confusion for them. Some children may see it as an irrational or illogical move. Some children may blame themselves. Some feel they're no longer loved. Other children feel they've been abandoned. We had a call. Now, we were probably like you. Perhaps you have the rule in your house, as foster parents, that you're not going to have any children older than your own biological children, right? We have that rule, but you know, as foster parents, we also have to recognize that sometimes rules go out the window, right? Yep. So we had this rule, no child older than our oldest child. At the time, our oldest child was 11, got a phone call for a 13-year-old boy. Will we take him? They are desperate. Will we take him? They are desperate. So we prayed about it, and we said, okay, we will try this. This 13-year-old boy, earlier that day, on his birthday, was driving in Atlanta, Georgia with his mother on I-75, a very, very, very busy thoroughway. 6 lanes going one way, 6 lanes going another way. His mother pulled over on an underpass on the highway and said to her son, "Son, get out of the car and go to the trunk and get your presents out, and we'll open up here in the car." And his 13-year-old boy, brand new 13-year-old, said, "Okay, Mommy." Got out of the car, closed the door, and she took off. Left him there, stranded on his birthday. His birthday. And when he came to our house, you can imagine the confusion he was undergoing. He is struggling with, what did I do wrong? Does my mom no longer love me? Did I say something? Will I ever see her again? Was it my fault? And he recognizes that he is now a foster child label, and he's embarrassed by that, humiliated by that. 2 o'clock in the morning, I could hear him still trying to stifle his tears in the pillow as he's just crying himself to sleep. So I looked at my wife and said, I can't do this. So I got up and drove an hour to Walmart, the closest Walmart. Again, I live town 2,000 people. There's nothing there. I live so far out, there's no cell phone service at our house. That's how far out I am. And the next morning we celebrated a huge birthday for him. Because we believe that birthdays and holidays need to be very special for children in foster care, because it may be the first time they've ever celebrated a holiday. For so many children, you are familiar with post-traumatic stress disorder. We're going to talk about it later on this afternoon in our second session. It's an anxiety disorder occurring after someone has experienced or witnessed an extreme traumatic event. Did you know that children in foster care are twice as likely to suffer from PTSD than our U.S. war veterans? Twice as likely to suffer from PTSD than our U.S. war veterans. Why do we not hear about that? We hear about it all the time with our U.S. war veterans, and we should. Why do we not hear about kids in foster care? Quite simply, children in foster care, no one talks about. The media does not talk about that unless it is a bad story or a bad situation. The media is always focusing on negative stories. One of the reasons why I think foster care is under attack is because the media focuses on those negative stories. Those bad foster parents, bad experiences, whatever it may be. It may happen, PTSD may happen from prolonged separation or death of family member, various forms of abuse, witness of abuse to others, homelessness, drugs or alcohol in the family, neglect, abandonment, imprisonment of a family member. These are all reasons why children in foster care are placed into your home. And then they come to live with you. And again, your friends and your family members truly do not understand it. And now, I love caseworkers. But foster parents, you'll probably agree with me that no one understands exactly what you do like another foster parent. That's why I'm a big, firm believer in conferences like this where you can gather together and share stories. I'm going to skip that because we'll talk about this later on today. Let us go to this. Say goodbye to the family. Now, if you're like me, these children become your children. They are your children, and you love them as much as you can, despite how difficult and challenging it can be. And again, it's the hardest thing I've ever done, the most rewarding thing I've ever done. And there are times where I have felt like this. I can't do this anymore. There are times when I've been overwhelmingly exhausted. I've been there with you. I get it. And then they're removed from your home. Sometimes suddenly. Why might they be removed from your home? Perhaps they're removed from your home because of the courts. Maybe they have been adopted by another family. This lovely story you heard earlier, about 775 days, was that it? Maybe they go back to live with their birth parents. Reunification. Reunification can be a wonderful, glorious thing. That's what we're all about, reunifying the children and the families. We also know as foster parents that sometimes that is not the best situation either. Because sometimes the children are being placed back into care after reunification. But when reunification does happen, it can be glorious and wonderful. Maybe they're being removed from your home because of health reasons. Maybe you can no longer take care of the child. Maybe your own health issues. Maybe you just need to have a little break. Maybe another place is coming in. Maybe it's a decision made by your family. You know what? We just need to have some time off from foster parenting. Whatever it may be, they may be removed from your home, and saying goodbye can be difficult. As foster parents, we invest all of our time. It is a 24-hour day job. Because when you go home from work, you have a child who is suffering from anxieties, who's suffering from traumas, who is having behavior issues or medical issues, who can't sleep at night, who is screaming at you, whatever it may be. It is challenging. You invest yourselves emotionally. My wife has said, no, I don't want to do this anymore. For several years. And the phone call comes, and you hear the story, and your emotions are just wrapped up in that child, and you say yes to that child. So I told you about those 3 children that we had, raised by the grandfather. We all tried to adopt the oldest one. When the adoption fell through, and 3 weeks later I saw my wife crying on the bathroom floor, I said to myself, okay, this is it. We're done. I can't do this anymore. After 14 years, I can't do this anymore, and I cannot let my wife have her heart broken time after time after time. A foster parent's heart's like a quilt with lots of patches over it. Would you agree? Got a phone call from the sheriff. And he said, Dr. John, we have a 17-year-old boy in jail. He shouldn't be here. He's been here for 5 days. He has no place to go. His mother and he were living from one home to another home to another home with boyfriend after boyfriend after boyfriend, or marriage after marriage after marriage. And the boy had been abused all throughout his life. And finally, they moved into a home with a new boyfriend. And after 1 month, the new boyfriend said to the mother, make a choice. It's either your son or me. And later that afternoon, she said, son, you got to go. Not even help you packing. She says, you got to get out of the house. And he walked out the door with a bag of clothing. He ended up in jail. They picked him up on the side of the road. Been in jail for 5 days. Sheriff said, we have no place for him to go. Will you please take him? And I said to him, well, I'll tell you what, I don't think we're going to do it, but I'll pray about it. I'll talk about my wife, pray about it, and I'll let you know. I talked about it with her that night, and I thought to myself, as I went to sleep, this is not going to happen. Next morning, my wife woke up. She didn't even say good morning. She didn't even say, I love you. She just said, we have no choice. That boy can't be in jail anymore. Call him and tell him we'll take him. So I went and visited him in jail, and then I told him, this is how it's going to be. We want you to be part of our family, but, da-da-da-da-da, because he's 17. I'm thinking this is going to be tough. He came to live with us. This boy had 0 social skills. I do not exaggerate with you, my friends, when I tell you I had to teach this 17-year-old boy how to brush his teeth, comb his hair, use deodorant, flush the toilet, how to use a knife and fork, how to not introduce yourself as, "Hi, my name is Matthew, I just got out of jail." No, that's not what you say. He was on 9 psychotropic drugs when he came to us. 9. Because his mother wanted to just sedate him and push him in the corner. Now, I understand that sometimes medication is important for children, but I also believe that children in foster care are over-medicated with psychotropic drugs. We got him down to 1, which is the one he needed. And he was a completely different human being. All of a sudden, he saw life as a grand adventure. We started talking about going to college, which he had all A's, but he had no sense of future beforehand. Where are you going to go to college? I don't know. What are you going to do after school? I don't know. Have you thought about military? I don't know. Why not? No one's ever talked about these with you. So now we start talking about his life possibilities, and we go to college, military, what do you want to do? And then all of a sudden he's just thinking, okay, life is a big smorgasbord, and there's a huge buffet table here, and I don't know what to choose from. So one day he's going to go to this college, next day he's going to go to the military, next day he's on the college, next day it's the Army, the Marines, the Air Force, this college, that college. Finally I said to him in January, all right, son, you got to focus on 3 things here so we can focus on it. And then he said, I want to travel for the basketball team. Okay, all things are possible, sure. Have you ever played basketball before? Nope. Have you ever played with your friends? Nope. Have you ever dribbled? Nope. We practiced in the driveway. It was terrible. Well, it's okay, all right. So trials were the afternoon. The morning, we drove to the doctor's office to get a physical. And he said to me, and I'm a huge basketball fan. He knows I love college basketball because he was watching it in the house with me. And he said, I think when I graduate from high school, I'm going to go start on Duke. I said, that's not going to happen. What do you mean? You said I could do anything. Yep, that one ain't happening. Started the basketball team, he got cut. The next day he said, I'm going to try out for the wrestling team. Okay, all right. Now, I knew the wrestling coach, and they didn't cut anybody. They were so happy to have anybody join. Well, he's in the wrestling team. 2 days later, he said, I want to quit. No, we're not going to quit. We're going to see things through. We're going to teach you some life lessons here. We're going to make a commitment to see the team, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because he was getting his butt kicked. And again, no social skills. This principal walks by. I'm standing there watching practice one day, and this principal loves what I do. She's a big supporter in my wife and I and what we do. So I'm watching the practice, and she's 5'0", skinny as a rail. And he says, come here, I want to show you my new wrestling move, And he picked her up, and he body slammed her. I was like, oh my God, what are you doing? Unbelievable. But when these children come to our house, we invest ourselves emotionally with them. I feel their pain. You feel their pain. We invest ourselves physically. It is not an easy job. 55 kids have come through my home, and I feel every one of them in each muscle, every bone, every morning. And there's some mornings I think I'm so tired. We invest every single aspect of our life as a foster parent. It is a very different lifestyle that you lead that no one understands. Feelings of grief and loss are very, very important. It is important, or normal. It's important for you to remember that you are not in charge of the situation when a child is removed from your home. Many times that decision is made by the courts. Remember that group of 5 children I told you about, the house of feces, as the sheriff calls it in our town? They were with us for 10 days. And they really started pulling my heartstrings. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe we'll adopt these kids. Because, as I said earlier, people say, how do you do it? Heavy drugs. I must have been really drugged out that day. Thinking, I'm going to adopt 5 more kids. Oh my gosh. But I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to adopt these kids. I got a phone call that morning. Dr. John, the kids had court today. I said, oh, I didn't know. I want to be in court every time a child in foster care in my home has court, because I want them to recognize that we are in this together. This is important for us. We are a family. I am here to support you in this. They need me there with them. I said, I want to be there. Well, we already had it there. Circuit judge was in town that day. We have a circuit judge that goes through 10 different counties and hits us every 2 weeks. Circuit judge was in town, and their uncle from Maryland came down to Georgia to get them. I said, oh, okay. Well, what's happening? Well, they're going to go with the uncle. All right. When? They left an hour ago. They left an hour ago? I don't get to say goodbye? I don't get to say goodbye to these kids. I want to say goodbye to these children. They came to our house, and I got that phone call. At the time, I was driving a VW Bug. Why? I don't know why. I was driving a VW Bug. And I quickly recognized at the phone call that I cannot fit 3 car seats in the back of the VW Bug because it's impossible to do so. So I called a friend of mine who he has a hobby of dealing with selling cars. And I said to him, I need to sell you my car, and I need a new car. And I explained to him why. And he said, when do you need it? And I said, in 20 minutes. So I got this Ford Escape, and 3 car seats in the back. It's wintertime, and I'm from Michigan. I understand snow. People in Georgia do not understand snow. One snowflake, I kid you not, my small town of 2,000 people shuts down. They panic, they run to the only grocery store we have, and they buy as much milk and bread as you possibly can. I don't know what they're going to do with all the milk and bread. Maybe they're going to make French toast. I don't know. And our school system truly shuts down the next day if it might snow. Well, it could snow tomorrow, so there's no school. And I have been mocking these people for years and years. Like, hey, out there, Michigan, snowman, snowshoes, a school, blah, blah, blah. We had a big ice storm in Georgia a couple years ago. You may have seen it on the news. It was so bad that in Atlanta, Georgia, they shut, there were people stranded on the highway for 24 hours. Remember this? So there was no school in our county for 3 days. You know, power's out everywhere. That was Monday through Wednesday. On a Thursday, school's back in session. And my wife and I lived down this long dirt road. And I told you there's no cell phone service in our house, and I mean there's no cell phone service in the house. My wife's in the car in the front. She's got 6 kids with her, and I'm in the back, and I'm behind her in another car. Got 9 kids. I got 3 kids with us. We had 9 at the time. And going about 10 miles an hour during this dirt road that's icy. And I hit a pothole. And I said verbally, this car's out of control. Started spinning. It went up an embankment, and I said out loud, this car's going to flip over. I was so shocked, and sure enough, it flipped over. Crawl out of the window, out of the car. My wife's gone. She turned the corner, going to school. Again, my cell phone's not going to work, so I can't call her. Kids are upside down. Ah! I thought, okay, I got 3 options here very, very quickly. Okay, very, very quickly. A, it's 13 degrees outside. If I pull them out of the car and set them on the ground, they're going to freeze to death because it's 13 degrees and no cars coming along here for a while. B, it's 13 degrees, I pull them out of the car, they're going to slip on the ice, crack their head open, and I'm sued. C, well, they're strapped in and the car's warm, so I pull out my harmonica, I lean over the window, and start playing songs, dancing like this. And they're like, ah, ah, have a great time, ah, just making funny faces, you know, and 30 minutes later, I'm like, oh, a little slower. And they're like, not so enthused. Ah. The car finally pulled up. Neighbor, she got us into her car. We drove down the road, called my wife, called the 911, went back to my car, waited in her warm car. And I kid you not when I say every single sheriff, ambulance, and firefighter all came out because they wanted to see Dr. John, the guy who's been on TV, the guy who's written his books, the guy who's on foster care. The guy's been mocking them for years and years and years about snow, and they're taking pictures of my car, they're laughing about it, they're asking me to post the car next to it. About a year later, my book Love and Mayhem was released, and I got a phone call from a caseworker. Hey, John, I just read chapter 2. Uh-huh. How come you didn't tell me? Do you know how much paperwork you'd have done? Uh-huh. Oh, okay, all right. Never told my caseworker. She had to read it. Sometimes, you might ask for the removal of the child. You might ask to have the child removed. The pain is no less. In fact, the pain is more. Helena was 9 years old when her parents were killed in Romania. So she was adopted by a family in New York when she was 9, who told her, "We will teach you English. We will be a forever family. We will love you unconditionally." And for 6 months, she was a victim of child sex trafficking. And then they traded her back in. They unadopted her. I did not know you could do that. She went to live with a family in New York who said, "We will love you forever. We'll teach you English. We'll be your forever family. Love you unconditionally." And for 1 year, they sexually abused her. And then they gave her back. She's 11 at this point. No, she's 12 at this point. Adopted by a family in Georgia, right near where I live. They said, "We'll finish teaching you English. We will be your forever family. We will love you unconditionally." And for the next 5 years, they physically, emotionally, and sexually abused her. And then one day, when she just turned 17, they took her, driving the car to her adopted mother, 6 years, drove her to school, instead went to child welfare, dragged her out of the car, threw suitcases out, and said, "You're not part of our family." And then she came to live with me. And my wife and I walked that walk of unconditional love. She wanted nothing to do with it. 3 families told her, "We will be your forever family. We will love you unconditionally." And 3 families sexually abused her, and worse, over the course of 7.5 years. We're in the process of adopting my first child. I said to my wife, "This girl," I call her Helena in my book, Fostering Love, when Helena turns 18 years of age, where will she go? Where will she go on Christmas or Thanksgiving? Who will she call when she has a flat tire on a rainy Sunday night? Who will sing her happy birthday on her birthday? I do not want her to become one of the 55% who quit school, 65% who end up in jail, 75% who end up in prison. I'm sorry, 65% who end up homeless, 75% who end up in jail, who age out of foster care, and the cycle repeating itself. She needs a family. So I did something that was very hurtful to her. I offered to adopt her. What was I thinking? Adoption to her meant sexual abuse and abandonment. But I wasn't thinking that. She grudgingly said yes after 3 days. The day the adoption process was to start, she went to school, found the first person she could find, and started a fight, fist fight, and was taken out in handcuffs and placed in jail. She sabotaged the adoption process, and why should she not have? Of course she did. Of course she did, but I was not thinking that. And it went downhill from there. Finally, it was so stressful. She is the reason why I wrote the book, Keeping Foster Children Safe Online. Because when I found her doing some stuff online, 10 years ago, 11 years ago when this happened, and I experienced my first case of sexting and other stuff, I recognized the huge problem. That's why I wrote the book and the seminars. It got so stressful. And she is teaching my younger children in my house a lot of issues and a lot of behaviors that my wife and I did not want our children exposed to. Finally, we said to her, listen, Helena, we love you. We want you to be part of our family forever. But you need to abide by our rules, our morals, and our values instead of our refrigerator, our television, and our swimming pool. And 3 days later, she did some stuff that was so dangerous to our family that I had to make the phone call to have her removed from her home, and I felt such guilt. The last thing she said to me was, you talk about unconditional love, but you don't know what love is, and she spat in my face. It was the words that affected me. I had such guilt for 2 years. My wife kept telling me we had no choice. She was destroying our family, destroying our family. Our own children were in jeopardy. I knew that here. Here I kept thinking, I could have been more patient. I could have done this. I could have done that. We called her. We wrote her letters. We visited her. We brought her to her home. Helped her get to college. My wife and I just went and visited her house that her and her husband just bought. And she calls us grandparents to her child. It took me a long time to get from here to there, and I had such guilt. When you ask to have a child removed from your home, it brings feelings of guilt as well as grief. Sometimes in those ambivalent relationships, birth parents or adoptive parents may feel ambivalent towards you as a foster parent because you're linked to the child's past. So I get interviewed by radio stations at least twice a week, and I'm always asked the same question: how many children do you keep in contact with? I tell them out of 55 kids, maybe 10. Why is that? I said, well, many times when the kids go back to their birth parents, I am a link to their past that they don't want to acknowledge, recognize, remember. They want to move past. I wish I had the opportunity like this lovely young lady here, the doctor, who called up and said, hey, we want you to be part of the kid's life. This may cause feelings of value about your own fostering. Are you making a difference or not? You may think that. And then there's demanding roles, the demands of other children, both foster and biological. Take away time from your own grieving. You do not allow yourself time to grieve. The demands of everyday life, work, family, etc., etc., etc. You don't give yourself that time to grieve. There's that social expectation. Society believes that you do not become too attached to the kids because they are really not your what? They're really not your children. And then you have the concern that child went to a home that was not in the best interest as well, and that can prevent your own grieving as well. And then there's your personality. You avoid those feelings of grief and loss. They're seen as signs of weakness. My first child, I told you, died of anencephaly. I did not grieve because I felt at that time, 23 years ago, that men don't cry. Men are tough. I must be strong. I was a fool. But some people believe that. Expressing grief is different for each of us. How many are familiar with the stages of grief by Kubler-Ross? Well, let's look at them in regards to you as a foster parent. First, there is shock. The removal of the foster child may bring feelings of shock to you as a foster family. After emotional attachments are made, the sudden removal from your home can leave you feeling tremendously shocked. Let me tell you about the story that drives me every single day. So my wife went to visit her mother in Australia. And by the way, when you have 6 kids, and it's you and your wife, that's 8 people, and it is $2,000 a ticket. That means it is $16,000 just to see my mother-in-law. Do you feel my pain, John? Thank you. I gotta express that sometimes. Thank you for that. And they laugh. So my wife went to visit her mother in Australia. And she took with her our son. He was 4 4 at the time. My girls are 7 and 5. They're in school. My wife's going to be gone for 3 weeks. Leave on Tuesday. Got a phone call on Thursday. Dr. John, got a 7-year-old girl. Will you take her? Why is she in care? Well, her father's a registered sexual predator. He's not in the picture. Can't find him anywhere. Raped her several times. Mother's a severe drug addict. Can't find mom anywhere. She's living with grandmother. Grandmother's a severe alcoholic. And the child, the 7-year-old girl, is responsible for getting herself fed and clothed and to school. She takes frozen hot dogs out of the freezer, puts them in the microwave for breakfast and dinner, goes to school 50% of the time. 50% of the time she's not in school. Okay, how long will she be with us for? Just for the weekend. I said, okay, let me call my wife and ask my wife about it. Because, John, can you imagine if I had not asked my wife's permission? I would not be here today, would I? No. All right. John gets that. All right, so I called my wife up, and she's in Australia, 16-hour difference. And she said, well, I don't know. What do you think? You think you can do it? I said, yeah, I can do it. You know, you trained me well. You taught me how to lift the toilet up and seat up and down. I can do all these things. You trained me good. Okay. Just for the weekend? I said, yeah, just the weekend. Okay. So I called the caseworker back up. I said, okay, we'll do it. All right, great. The next day, it's Friday. I called my girls together, 7 to 5. I said, girls, remember all those kids who come to our home? Remember how scared they were? Remember how traumatized they were? Remember that little 4-year-old girl who came to our house who took the knife out of the kitchen drawer and was doing this to us? The one who was hiding under the bed, screaming for the police. Remember all those? Yes. This girl will probably be the same way too. She'll be very, very scared. Girl said, okay. Car pulls up. Caseworker's inside. I go down to my girls. Girls, remember, she's going to be scared. Okay, Daddy. Open the car door up. I said, hello. My name is Daddy, she said. I said, well, hello. I love you. I said, well, I love you too. She said, are you my new sisters? I love you, I love you. My girls looked at me like this. I said, I have no idea what's going on in your head. Second placement. 3 weeks later, I went to pick up my wife from the airport. It was 12:30 at night. My wife had a 46-hour trip home from delays. She was very tired. My son's very tired. I gave my wife a gentle hug here. One daughter hugs her here. The other daughter hugs her here. And then my wife says to me, let's just go home. Okay, I said, okay. All of a sudden, this girl runs down there and hugs her here and says, I love you, Mommy! And my wife looks at her like this, looks at me. I said, long weekend. In my book, Fostering Love, I call her Sydney. Sydney had reactive attachment disorder. She was a food hoarder. She lied like no tomorrow. She was huge behavior issue in school, huge academic problems. She was a challenge. And guess what? It didn't matter, because this is my child, and I love her. And we're in the process of trying to adopt Sydney. Oh, no. Right? We were in the process of trying to adopt Sydney. And December 23rd came, December 22nd, I remember exactly, December 22nd, a phone call. This is almost 2 years with Sydney with us. I got a phone call. Dr. John, Sydney's going to go live with her aunt and uncle in Florida, whom she met once. I said, but we're in the process of trying to adopt her. Yes, the judge says she's got to go live with her aunt and uncle. Family. Different state. She's met them once. They're family. When? They said, tomorrow. I said, tomorrow. Tomorrow. You give me 20-hour notice? Yes, judge says she needs to be with family before Christmas. I said, we are the only family she's ever known. We're the only family she's ever known. Every child needs to wake up with family on Christmas Day. No child needs to wake up on Christmas morning with strangers. With strangers. I said, I will, let her stay till December 26th. No. Let her wake up Christmas morning, December 25th. We have these presents piled up high for her. I will drive her 6 hours to Florida myself, Christmas Day. Let her wake up with family on Christmas morning. Judge says no. So December 23rd, 20 hours later, my wife's at home in shock. I go to the child welfare office. I get all the presents out of the car from the car. I gave Sydney a 8x10 frame picture of our family with the names, phone numbers, and address in the back. I looked at the family, and I know this is wrong. I know this is wrong. I get it. I understand it. I've prayed about it a lot. But I looked at them and thought, this doesn't look good. It doesn't look safe. Judgment. I get it. Shouldn't do it. Look at the speck. Look at the log of my own eyes. I get it. I've sinned 1,000 times today. I have no doubt. But I looked at them and thought this did not look good. I gave Sydney a hug. I said, Sydney, I love you. Goodbye. And on Christmas Day, 2 days later, my wife and I cried the entire day. Well, 4 years later, I'm actually packing to go to Australia. And I pick up the phone. I'm literally walking out the door. Pick up the phone. And a voice I had not heard in 4 years said, Daddy, I want to come home. Sydney, where, is this you? Daddy, please let me come home. Please let me come home. Sydney, where are you? What's happening? Is this you, Sydney? Is this you? And she started crying. Please let me come home, Daddy. Sydney, where are you? Let me talk to somebody. So she put me on the phone to her foster mother in Alabama. You see, her aunt and uncle's stepson in Florida had been raping her over and over again. And they knew about it. And they did not want to get in trouble. So they drove to Florida, found the nearest state park, and they deserted Sydney there. The only thing she had with her besides the clothes in the back was this framed picture. With the phone number. With her phone number. I said to the foster mother, I said, listen, I'm going to Australia today for 3 weeks, but when I come back, I will go visit her. We'll bring her back to her home. We'll start the adoption process again. The lady said, Dr. DeGarmo, you don't understand. She's very difficult. I said, I have no doubt. No, she's very, very difficult. She's 12 at this point. I said, I'm sure she is, but this is not matter. This is my daughter. The entire time I'm in Australia, I keep hearing, Daddy, I want to come home. Daddy, please let me come home. And when I did drive home from the airport, I didn't even unpack. I went straight to the phone and got the phone and called that foster mother up, and she'd already been moved, and they didn't know where. And for the next 5 years, I searched for Sydney. 30 minutes every Sunday night after church choir practice, internet, phone calls, letters, visiting people in Georgia, Florida, Alabama. I don't know where she is. I'm doing a thorough search for her. I needed her to hear 3 things before she aged out. 3 things before she was at 55% who quit school, 65% who was homeless, 75% who were in jail, and this cycle repeating itself, like 2 of the 3 I've adopted who are 3rd generational. I needed her to hear she's important, she's cared for, and that she is loved. And I cannot find her, and it's giving me nightmares. And then last year, Wednesday before Easter Sunday morning, I got a text on my phone from the president of the Alabama Foster Parent Association. It said, call this number. It's all said, and a phone number. I thought it was about the keynote speech I was giving. So I called the number up. And I said, hi, this is Dr. John DeGarmo. Dr. John, we've been waiting for you, strange voice said. I said, I'm sorry, who is this? This is so-and-so, Director of Child Welfare for the state of Alabama. I said, I'm so sorry, I got the wrong number. No, we've been waiting for you to call. I said, do you know why I called? Yes. I paused, and then I felt it. I said, oh, do you know where she is? And she said one word, yes. And I absolutely lost it. I could not stop crying. Could
not stop crying on that phone. I've been looking for 5 years. Easter Sunday morning, my wife and I had 8 kids in the house. We put them in different respite homes. And at 8 o'clock in the morning, we went to our sunrise service in our town at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. We drove to Alabama, and we found Sydney in a children's mental health hospital, age 18. She's cutting herself. Nobody calling her, nobody visiting her, nobody writing a letter. In her mind, we kicked her out of the house on Christmas Day. And in her mind, when she called up 4 years later and said, Daddy, I want to come home, we didn't get her. We struggled with adopting this Sydney. Do we adopt her or not at 18 years of age? Her child therapist tells us she's a danger to small children. We visited her several times. It was worse than I ever imagined, this children's mental health hospital. And I really struggled with adoption. I knew that if I adopted her, it could very much damage the children in my own home who I have adopted, who have fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, and who have other issues of attachment and other related issues as well. Sydney has now been released from the Children's Mental Health Hospital. She's now 19 and a half. She's not past 9th grade. She's floating from boyfriend to boyfriend to boyfriend. She's not pregnant. It's going to be generational, I fear. The foster care system failed my Sydney, and I cannot let it happen again. I cannot let it happen again. It drives me every day, and we cannot let that happen to children again. I was in shock on December 22nd. First, feeling of grief and loss. Sometimes there's denial. You may deny you ever formed a relationship with a child or feelings of sadness inside. Deep down, you may grieve a loss believing that you could have done something better. You could have provided the help the child needed. Anger. Removal from the home of the child may bring feelings of anger and disappointment with a caseworker. The child welfare agency or another involved. You may blame the system. You may blame the caseworker. You may blame the court for the placement into another environment you feel is not safe. I felt that way when the children of 5 were taken to Maryland. I had anger. Guilt. You may blame yourselves, believing that you are at fault. You may try to comprehend what you did wrong with the removal of the child. Others experience guilt. They ask for removal of the child themselves. I had guilt when I had to ask Helena to be removed from my home, a 17-year-old girl from Romania. I had such overpowering guilt. It was not a good time in my household. Bargaining, some may try to substitute the grief they have with helping others, hoping to justify the loss of a child. Others may try to substitute the one child with another child. I hear this all the time. Dr. John, I have to have another baby in my house. I always know the answer is, but I ask, why is that? I just had a baby removed. I have to have another one. You cannot, my friends, you cannot substitute one child with another child and hope that grief goes away. No two snowflakes are alike. Well, no two children are alike. You have to allow yourself that time to grieve the loss of that one child before that child comes to your home. If you do this here, you're hurting everybody involved. That grief is going to come out at some point. Depression, there are different stages of depression. Some become irritated, some become fatigued. Still, others feel they cannot continue day to day. It is a difficult time with your family, with your work, with the relationships. Finally, there's acceptance. After the passage of time, your grief will decrease. Foster parents will accept their removal of the child. You will move on. Your emotional well-being will improve. You'll be able to understand, okay, I did not want my Sydney removed December 23rd, but it was out of my hands. I understand it. I understand I had to have Helena removed from my home. I get it. I had to do that for the sense of my own family. Now, so how do we help ourselves in times of grief and loss? Well, for social workers, there's a few things, and I must say this. If you're a social worker in this room, please tell me if I'm wrong. Please tell me if I'm wrong. I firmly believe that today's social workers are overworked, overwhelmed, under-resourced, and underpaid. Or am I wrong? Hallelujah! Because caseworkers are in it just like foster parents. We are all in it for the money, right? That's what your friends think. That's what society thinks. So I'm always asking my caseworkers for as much information as possible. I am that foster parent who's asking questions, and I want to know the duration of the time in my household, please, as much as I can. Because I don't want another December 22nd. I don't want shock. I want information shared with me constantly. I'm the guy who's always calling up the caseworker saying, hey, how did visitation go today? How did this go today? How did that go today? Anything I can do to help, etc., etc., etc. I want to know. Learner stages of grief. One of the best things my caseworker does for me is this. I have a great caseworker. She was with us for, maybe 9 years. She recently retired. After 20 years, and I told her I didn't blame her. I said, why? Why are you retiring? Because I have this 5-year-old son, I never get to see him. Okay, I get it, it's hard. But she would spend 30 seconds writing a card. Dear DeGarmos, you're in my thoughts and prayers during this time. Please let me know if I can help. And then, 30 seconds! But it meant a lot to my wife and I. It showed my wife and I that she really cares, she really gets it, she's really concerned, and it means so much. That simple condolence card makes it so much easier for my wife and I, and her foster parents. And that follow-up call. She always calls a week later. Hey, I know that little Jessica left, or little Sydney left, just want to see how you're doing. Not calling for a replacement, just want to check up on you and see how you're doing. I've been thinking about you. Anything I can help you with during this time? Give you some more time off. I just want to see how you're doing. Again, it's wonderful. Allocate resources. I love to have as much resources as I can. And if possible, the same caseworker, if possible. Stability of the same caseworker as a foster parent means this for me. She or he recognizes my challenges, my strengths, my failures, all of my weaknesses, whatever it may be. She recognizes what child would be best placement for a home. I recognize her strengths. We're able to get along together because we formed a relationship. And I've had some great caseworkers. Some of them I call my good friends. I had one caseworker recently, though, who, my wife and I are sitting at the table signing paperwork, and I'm cracking jokes like I always do, and she's not laughing at any of them. Finally, she said to me, Dr. DeGarmo, I do not do humor. Oh, well, I guess we're done here. I guess we're done. Did you like children? My wife said to me, I told you, one of these days. Increased training in grief and loss is always important for foster parents. Now the best thing my caseworker ever did was this. When my wife and I and some other foster parents finished our training, our caseworker helped us set up a foster parent support group in our own community. Raise your hand, please, if you belong to a foster parent support group in your area. Not many. You need to. Oh my gosh, do you need to? No one understands a foster parent like another foster parent. At our monthly meetings, we get together actually in a church in our area, and the church provides daycare for the children, provides a cooked meal. It's like going on a date with manna from heaven. Food prepared, already cooked for us. Woo! And a trainer, and we're able to get together and share concerns, vent, or gripe if we want, cry, laugh. Again, it's wonderful. If you do belong one, just don't do what I did earlier this year in January when I was speaking in Iowa. Speaking in Iowa on a Thursday and a Friday. Called my wife up Thursday night. Said, hey, how did the foster parent support group go? She said, it was great. You're the new president this year. What? So if you do belong one, just don't miss them when they have the election, because you'll probably be the president. Now, how do you care for yourself? Support group. Listen, if you're not in a support group, I encourage you to get one. They're not difficult. Ask these wonderful people here at CHD. They are great people. I love CHD. It has been such a joy working with them. And perhaps they can help you connect to one or form one. I can help you. Contact me online. I'll help you start one. It's great. It's great. Journal or diary. So this is what my wife does. When a child leaves our home, my wife will pull out that diary and just write and write and write and write and write. And she puts it on the shelf and she's done. She never reads it. She just writes. She's allowing herself to express the emotions inside of her. Instead of bottling it up inside like I did at the death of my first child, Bronte. I stuffed it down. She is expressing herself, getting on paper, and able to grieve through that way. For me, it is exercise. I love to work in my garden. I love to garden. I've got about 5 acres of flower gardens and veggie gardens. I go out there for peace, for quiet, for prayer, for meditation, for thought. My wife knows that if I go out there, I'll say, yeah, I'll just be 5 minutes. I'm going to go take the compost down. I'm usually out there for half an hour. She's going to ring the dinner bell to get me back in the house. What my wife loves to do is this, actually. So, you know, when you have 8, 9, 10, 11 kids in your house, it's full on. It's full on. And my wife and I usually, if we have I usually get texts on my phone every day about 3:30, 4 o'clock when the kids are getting off from school, and she'll give me the grocery list because I'm at the grocery store when? Every single day. How many gallons of milk a day in my house? 3. Should have bought a cow, right? Yep. So 10:30 at night, she'll fall in the bed and she'll say this. She'll say this. Don't talk to me, don't talk to me. I'm very, very important. I'm very, very busy. I'm very, very busy. Starts playing Candy Crush. That's how she's able to de-stress. My wife's a doctor of nutrition. She's all about organic foods, nothing processed, no high fructose corn syrup, no this, that. I got a whole list I have to do when I go grocery shopping. She's all about that. I love frozen pizza, Chips Ahoy, Fruity Pebbles. Our two worlds do this a lot. They collide, okay? They collide. Well, my wife was doing, when she was finishing her doctorate, she had to go through a 7-day colon cleanse. And she said to me, sweetheart, I'm doing the 7-day colon cleanse, and I'd love for you to do it with me. Walk this journey with me together. And I said, sweetheart, I love you. I would be more than happy to do so. I was so stupid. When I tell you that it cleansed my colon, I mean it cleansed my colon. Every hour and a half I drink this green, some might call it liquid. And minutes later, when you have to cleanse your colon, you got to cleanse your colon right then and right there. Because it's cleansing time, there's no stopping cleansing. And sometimes the toilet is not near enough when you got to cleanse your colon. I would literally run through the hall to cleanse my colon. And cleansing your colon is not a quiet thing. My boss actually said to me, were you just cleansing your colon? And he said, I heard it. But afterwards I felt great! I felt great! But this is a secret to life. I feel 100% fantastic. All the junk is on my body and just substitute with great stuff. I feel great. This is it. I'm going to live this way forever. And a month later, I'm going down the grocery store aisle because I do it every day. And this little voice said, Dr. John! Dr. John! said behind me saying, don't tempt me. It was the Fruity Pebbles. And I weakened. Do you know, with as many kids in my house, I do not share the Fruity Pebbles because A, it's not allowed in the house, and B, if I shared it, there would not be any left for who? For me. So I don't share it. For me, it's like manna from heaven. So, and I eat the Fruity Pebbles in the closet with the light off because the light's a channel indicator. So one time I'm eating, my wife's gone at work. That's what I do when she's not working because I sneak in the closet and eat the Fruity Pebbles. I'm eating the Fruity Pebbles in the dark closet, yum, 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 yum. And I hear my daughter, one of my daughters, she was 4 at the time, said, "Daddy, I did a poo and you didn't wipe." I said, "I'll be there in a minute." Yum, 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 yum. And I usually eat the whole box of 2 bowls. It's just so yummy. Oh my gosh. Hour later, my wife comes home, she says, "Hey, where's Grace?" I said, "I will go and find out for you." Went upstairs in the bathroom. Got her like this. I thought, foster parent of the year, right here! But, in all honesty, a healthy diet does wonders for the body's chemical reaction. So my wife's a whole doctor in that. I'm not going to go into that for you, but you know that. Calendar dates. What do I mean by calendar dates? I'll tell you what I mean by calendar dates. December 22nd is a calendar date. February 28th is a calendar date. That's for my daughter Bronte. December 22nd, I found out about Sydney leaving. I have other calendar dates. There are dates in your own calendar. We all have our own personal calendar dates. You need to recognize what those calendar dates are so they do not spring up on you and cause you feelings of grief and shock. Have those memories come back. And finally, if you can, remain in contact with that child if possible. You never know. Their birth parents may say, "You know what? We would like you to be part of this child's life." Or they may say something like this, "Hey, we need a break. Can you take care of the child for the weekend?" You're able to help yourself heal. You're able to help that child heal because they're experiencing grief and loss as well. If you do not care for yourself as a foster parent, when you are suffering from grief and loss as a foster parent, and you will, sometimes you'll feel that sense of relief when that child leaves. Sometimes you'll feel that guilt. Sometimes you'll experience that shock. Sometimes you'll have that anger. But when you're experiencing those feelings of grief and loss as a foster parent, if you do not care for yourself, then there is no way you can care for these children in your home. Now, before I close today, just after we're going to have lunch, and then I have to run over to do a little TV interview someplace. I'm going to be back here fully by 12:30. I'll be happy to meet with you, to chat with you, to answer some of your questions, sign some books if you'd like. And then afterwards, we're going to be talking about various forms of trauma, not only that you experience, but that your children experience and the birth parents experience as well. Hey, I am so pleased that for many of the CHD foster parents, they're going to be getting 24-hour access for 12 months to my online training webinars. Is that correct? Yeah. So, if you're not a member of CHD, you can go to my website and you can sign up and get 24-hour access to all of my online training courses. There's over 30 of them. You get access to the certificates, free books, etc. If you do so today, and remember CHD, if you go to my website today, I'll send you a free book. And if CHD members are already going to give you benefits of this. I love this book. Gosh, I love this book, A Different Home, A New Foster Child Story. It is about that 7-year-old girl who has those questions. Why am I here? When do I go home? When do I see mom again? And cries herself to sleep. It's in her words. It's not a stuffed animal. It's not a puppy dog or a teddy bear. It's a real child with real anxieties. At the end of the story, she realizes, I'm in a different home. I'm in a different family. But I'm going to be okay. It's a book designed for caseworkers and foster parents to pull off the shelf, to sit and read that child again in her words with beautiful pictures to help ease their anxieties and answer some of the many questions they have. It's a fantastic book during that difficult time of placement in your home. And I've read some other books as well. My friends, I so appreciate this morning. I've loved visiting this morning, and I hope I can actually sit and visit with you throughout the day today. And I think I'm going to hand it over here before we go over to lunch. Thank you so much.
John, that was a wonderful first half.
You know, I have been in your shoes. I've been to conferences. I have to get training too, right? It's a foster parent. I gotta get training too. So I have been to those conferences where after lunch, difficult. Very difficult. But hopefully we won't have that challenge today. We're gonna zoom through here today. I did have a few people. I want to address something. I had a few people ask me about the online training webinars. I said, well, I'm not part of CHD, but I want to get access to the webinars. It's really very simple. It's really very simple. You just go to my website. You click on the link for training and speaking, and you'll see the long, and I mean long, list of online training webinars. They're worth an hour credit. You get actually a certificate for each one. They're only 30 minutes long. Don't tell your caseworker. Because no foster parents, do you have an hour to sit through a training webinar at home? I don't. So you just pay access for it for 1 year, and you get access to all the webinars, the certificates, the free books, and a whole bunch more. Very simple. If you have questions, please do let me know. And afterwards, at 2:30, hey, come out to the table. I'd love to meet with you. I'd love to hear your stories, get pictures taken with you. You people are the people who inspire me. You really are. Okay, so let's get into this one right here. Trauma and stress in foster care. Hey, there's my family recently. All those children have been adopted, not by me, but that's when we had 11. That's one of the times we had 11. Woo! So you're thinking to yourself, how many kids can I have in Georgia? 6? 6. Not enough homes. Not enough homes. We just signed. They think, oh, the caseworkers think, oh, call the DeGarmos. These are foster care experts. They'll take anybody. You know, they'll take, and they're insane. So you know, there you go. And yeah, we are foolish enough to just keep signing those waivers. And then we figure out afterwards, okay, now that we have that, where are they going to sleep? Yes. We have 7 bedrooms. We've converted every possible room into a bedroom. Mm-hmm. Right. Well, that's one of the times we had 11, and I thought you'd find some fun in that. You can look at me there. I'm very tired in that picture. Yeah. Okay, so this afternoon we're going to create the awareness of realities of stress and trauma a child feels when moving to a foster home, as well as for the birth parents and for you. Okay. Now, we talked about this earlier today. When a child arrives in your home, it's a time of anxiety for them. But for you, there's anxiety as well, but there's also a time of excitement. I'll be honest, when I get that phone call, they usually call me first. Because my wife's she's with a client. I get a little excited. I get a little nervous. I start thinking, okay, what do I need to do? I recall one time it was at my previous job. This is when I was teaching, and I went to my principal and said, "Hey, I've got to go and get 3 cribs." This is when we had those 3 kids. I need 3 cribs and 3 car seats. He said, "When?" I said, "Yeah, we get 20 minutes." He said, "Okay, just go." But I'm thinking about, what do I need to do? How do I prepare my house? I have questions. Will this child fit into my home? How long will they be in my house for? What are their birth parents like? Why do they care? How are my own children going to react? I have concerns. Will my own children, will it be disruptive? Will I be able to help these children? And there are fears. Everybody has some fears. It's a time of great emotion, that arrival time. We talked a little bit earlier about post-traumatic stress disorder. It's an anxiety disorder occurring after someone has experienced or witnessed a traumatic event. That individual feels overwhelming fear, terror, or helplessness. Your children in foster care who are being placed in your home most likely are experiencing a form of PTSD. I go into great detail about it in the book, The Foster Care Survival Guide. Sometimes for some children, they are emotionally numb because of the experiences they felt. Remember that little boy I told you about who had been burned with cigarettes in his roof of his mouth and his tongue? He was emotionally numb. He was emotionally non-responsive. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if you have a child or a grandchild, 4 years of age, cigarette burns on his tongue, his mouth, his genitals? What is that going to do to a child? Sometimes they have flashbacks. They re-experience the trauma. So we make birthdays huge in our house. Absolutely huge. For anybody in our house. Particularly for the children in foster care. Because for some, it's the first time they've ever celebrated a birthday. No joke, we actually had a 10-year-old boy in our house who did not know how to sing happy birthday. Because no one had sung it to before. We had a 13-year-old boy in our house, tough as nails, tough, big, tough kid. And Christmas Day, he opened up a present, and it was a black leather jacket, and he said, "Can I keep this?" "Yes." He started crying. But for this one particular child, we had a 9-year-old girl, and we do what we normally do. She'd been placed in her house recently. It was her birthday. We do what we normally do. We take her breakfast in bed. Everybody gets a breakfast in bed at their birthday, including myself and my wife. And they get to choose their favorite cereal. Now you think, well, that's no big deal. But remember what my wife does. So, you know, it's all organic, non-processed stuff. So they usually, Lucky Charms, Fruity Pebbles, Cocoa Pebbles, you know, it's a one time of the year. That and Christmas when Santa Claus brings them. And then we have gifts, you know, and then after school there's huge parties, whatever it may be. Well, in this particular time, we walked down to the girl's bedroom, opened the door, and I was holding her tray with her favorite cereal, a gift, a juice, freshly squeezed juice, and a special donut. And we started singing happy birthday. And she started screaming. She flipped out. I did not know why. Why is this child screaming uncontrollably and thrashing her arms and legs? We did not know. We were not told that between the ages of 2 and 8, that her stepfather would go in her room on her birthday and rape her. That was her birthday gift. Rape on her birthday, our stepfather. Flashbacks. The worst thing we could have done was sing her happy birthday, and she immediately went back to that environment. For some children, they are hyper-aroused, they are very irritable, they're very, very on guard. Some children who are experiencing PTSD may be very, very, very disorganized. Some have disturbing memories or reoccurring dreams. Have you heard of the term night terrors? We've had children in our home who have experienced night terrors. Strong psychological distress over incidents that appear to be similar for that child. That birthday is very similar to what she was experiencing in her mind. Or anniversaries of events can be very traumatic as well. Thoughts or feelings associated with a traumatic event, they try to avoid that. Anything associated with a traumatic event, they try to avoid. They try to avoid activities or places or people that might bring back memories of them. They may experience loss of interest in activities. They're suffering from PTSD. They may become detached from others, or they may have lack of loving feelings or a lack of a future. That 17-year-old boy I told you about earlier today, the one who body slammed the principal, oh my gosh, he had a complete lack of future because nobody had told him he had a future. It was just so disturbing. Other symptoms may include psychological disorders or substance abuse, physical illness or attachment problems. They may even experience suicidal thoughts. Now I must stop here and tell you this. My friends, if you have a child in your home who's living with you, who has expressed a desire to kill themselves, expressed suicidal thoughts of any kind, of any way, you must immediately call your caseworker and report it. I have an online training webinar about the importance of 3 words. If you're anybody dabble in real estate here? All right, for real estate agents, they say 3 things. Location, 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 right? Well, as a foster parent, I'm going to give you 3 words. Documentation, documentation, documentation. You've got to document. I have a webinar all about documentation. All the things you need to document as a foster parent. You have to document so much. I'm not going to go into it now. You can find it on my website, articles, books. But if somebody in your home experiences or expresses any type of suicide whatsoever, you've got to document that and call in immediately. Would you agree, caseworkers? All right, thank you. Other trauma might become depressive. They may become very, very depressed. They may experience adjustment disorder, which is initial trauma, which may not be as intense. I go into great detail on all this in the Foster Care Survival Guidebook. They may experience acute stress disorder or obsessive compulsive disorder. These are just some traumas associated with PTSD. Going over these briefly here. And then, you need to remember this. It took me a while to appreciate this. You are not the child's mommy, you're the child's daddy. When they come to your home, so many people think your friends, your families, is in your home. I've had twice. Not much fun, is it?
No. So how do you prepare for this? How do you prepare when a child arrives in your home? So you are preparing yourself for these feelings, trauma, stress they may face. Background information. Hey, I love questions. I love questions. I love the statement that knowledge is power. The more knowledge you have about a child being placed in your home, the better prepared you are to care for that child and meet that child's needs. So, ask those questions of your caseworker. Find out as much information as you possibly can. Again, in my book, The Foster Parenting Manual, got a huge list of questions that I ask, because I need to be prepared. Educate yourself beforehand and gather as much information as you possibly can about the child's needs, before the child is placed in your home. If I had known that this 9-year-old girl had been raped on her birthday, there'd been no way in the world I would have done something as damaging as singing something as simple as happy birthday. But I did not have that background information. I did not have that knowledge. I needed it. Because issues of trust in that child that we had tried to create, all were destroyed and damaged by something as simple and innocent as happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you. Destroyed all of them. I still hurt when I tell that story. Some questions you might ask about a child being placed in your home is, how old is the child? Why is the child in care? How long might that child be staying with you? Will the child need daycare supervision? Does the child have any learning disabilities or special needs of any kind? Does the child have any anger management or extreme emotional issues that you need to be aware of? How many of you have had children in your home with reactive attachment disorder? How is that? Challenging? Exhausting? Is this the first time a child's been in foster care? Why is this such an important question? Well, the child's been in care many, many times. There are going to be issues of trust, issues of attachment, something that breaks my heart every time I hear multiple displacement. The child's been moved from one home to another home to another home to another home. I do not like that. Because when they come to my house, it's family. I told you earlier, the time we had to have a child removed, it caused me great guilt. Are the child's medical shots up to date? Are there any medical concerns? Oh my gosh, how many times have I had to go to the doctors early in the morning for new placements for children because the children's medical shots are not what? Up to date. Please raise your hands for me, please, if you've been there yourself, going back and forth to doctor's visits those first few days of placement. Yes. That sibling group of 5, none of them were up to date. Oh, that was a long couple days. Is a child from the same town, or does a child need to be enrolled in your local school system? A whole book on it. My dissertation was on this topic. Children in foster care are liable to drop out of school. More than half will drop out of school when they age out of the system because school systems have failed them. I was a teacher. I'm here to tell you that today's teachers, on average, in general, are not prepared, not trained, do not have the resources, the knowledge about children in foster care. Today's teachers are, much like caseworkers, overworked, overwhelmed, under-resourced, underpaid, more and more paperwork, more and more testing, more and more accountability. It is more and more challenging to be a teacher. My oldest daughter, is considering becoming one. I say, God bless her. And when that child's placed into their classroom, they may not even know they're a child in foster care. For those kids I told you about earlier, the 3 ones who went to visit mom on Tuesdays and dad on Thursdays in jail, school was shot. They're not thinking about schoolwork or homework or testing or quizzing. So when they go from multiple schools, they're falling further and further and further behind academically. Many times the schools do not have their transcripts, they do not have their records, they do not know what classes to place these children in. You as a foster parent are struggling because you don't know what their needs are, and they're falling further and further behind. I always ask, does the children have clothes? Well, we need to buy diapers and baby wipes. Now, if you're like me, you probably got diapers and baby wipes on supply in your house. Sometimes the placement disruptions. When a child is placed into your home, it's a traumatic experience. We saw it earlier. That one study was way off, 48%.
traumatic behavior problems? You told me it's 100%, and I would agree with you. Emotional upheaval, new house, new rules, new parents. Helena, the girl from Romania, which is not her real name. I remember one day to me, she said, "Do you and your wife talk about everything beforehand?" Yes. She said, "I think that's stupid." Well, it's just rules. Hey, a funny story about her I want to share with you. So, I told you that she was the reason why I wrote the book, Keeping Foster Children Safe Online, because I saw sexting. And if you're not familiar with sexting, I encourage you to learn today. It's today's form of flirting with kids. But she wanted to go on a date. Beautiful, Romanian, dark looks, very sexually active before she came to my house. Again, of course she would be. She'd been raped by people for 9 years. And my wife actually at one point told her, when you come to live in our house, you're a born-again virgin. Okay, all right. But she wanted to go on a date. And my oldest daughter was 10. And I have found that I become older and older as a parent. I become more and more conservative in my parenting skills because I think these kids could go out with me. When I was a kid, I don't want that. So I told her, well, she said, "I want to go on a date." I said, "I need to meet the guy." "Why?" "I need to meet the guy." "Why?" "I need to meet the boy." Okay. So the little boy came to our house. The boy was 17. And he said, "Hi, Dr. DeGarmo, my name is..." "Son, come and put these gloves on and come with me." Okay. The gloves on, we go back on my garden, we're spreading some straw on the asparagus field. And I said, "What are your 5-year plans? What are your 10-year plans?" And he had the nerve to say, "Well, this is just our first date." I said, "Fine, this is my daughter. You need to understand, what are your life goals, son? What are your life goals?" And I said, "Before you leave, you need to understand 2 things. First of all, her curfew is 11 o'clock at night. If it's 1 minute past 11, I will consider the fact that you've kidnapped her and taken her over state lines. I already took a picture of your license plate. Do you understand me?" Yes? Second of all, whatever you do to her, I'm going to do the same thing to you. Shall I kiss you now or when you get back? And he said, "When I get back, fine, I'll be waiting for you." They were back at 9:15 at night. She said, "That was the boringest date ever." I said, "Yes, I'm ready for the dating world." But she wasn't used to our rules. The children are not used to you. Sometimes kids are coming to your home who have had no rules whatsoever. Separation anxiety. They may be feeling great anxiety from being separated from their parents, of course. And a new school. A school is a constant, daily, minute-by-minute reminder that he or she is a foster child. Placement disruptions also include emotional or psychological or social effects. There may be mental health threatened by their multiple displacements. When they go from home to home to home to home to home, it destroys any sense of attachment. And of course, their academic performances are lower than traditional students. Children in foster care are, on average, 1.5 years behind academically. And they suffer most in reading and math skills. Relationship with teachers. Well, for many kids, there's a lack of trust or a lack of understanding with that teacher. They have no healthy relationship with an adult in general. And as they go from home to home, it hinders developing a relationship with a teacher. Now think about this. Last month, April, March, February, January, December, November, October, September, August, Monday through Friday, if your kids are school age, where are they most of the time of the day? They're with a teacher. They're with a teacher who most generally does not understand why this child is withdrawing, or why this child is lashing out. That the visitation yesterday did not go so well, or maybe mom did not show up, or there was a court hearing yesterday, and the parents did not show, or something ugly was said, or they went to a therapy counseling session, or they need to go later on today. And they can't focus on homework, but teachers don't understand that. They don't get that. I did not! Before I was a foster parent, I did not understand that, and I had these children in my classroom. And I was like most teachers and thought, well, he's a foster child, he'll be out of my classroom sometime anyways. They're a troublemaker. I need to report them to the administrative privacy laws. Lack of information in the educational needs or special needs or abilities, placement issues, lack of communication with the caseworker between the teachers and the foster parents. It's a very challenging, troubling time for kids in school. I love this quote by Hoffman and Lee. We cannot teach students if we do not know them well. I think it's the same thing for children in your home. We cannot care for children if we do not know them well. I want to know as much as I can about the child in my home so I can care for them and provide for them what they truly need. So when a child is placed in your home, oh yeah, there's going to be changes in your family dynamics. It's going to happen. Sometimes there's going to be wonderful changes. Sometimes it can be a little bit disruptive. So what my wife and I do is we talk about these changes beforehand. We gather our kids together and say, hey, you know what, we're considering, we had a phone call, we're considering taking this child in. Here's a little bit about the reasons why they're in foster care, because my children need to understand that as well. And then how do you feel about that, kids? How do you feel about that? And generally my kids will say, fine, no worries, Dad, of course we'll do it. But on occasion they may say, Mom, Dad, we just want to spend a little bit of time with you. We need a break. We are grieving the loss of the previous child. I have a daughter right now she's 19. She's in Australia right now for 2 months. Going to school in Vanderbilt. Become a medical doctor. And she is such a compassionate person. She grieves when those children leave her home. Leave our home. So there are times when she needs to have a break as well. It is okay. I'll reiterate what I said earlier this morning. It is okay for you to sometimes say no to a placement to allow yourself a break. It's okay to recharge those batteries. Because if you say no to the phone call today, my friend, you're probably going to get a phone call again tomorrow or next week. So talk about the changes of dynamics with your family, how they feel about it, any concerns they might have. Because they've got some concerns too. We had the group of 5 kids I told you about from the House of Feces. 13-year-old, there was a 11-year-old girl, 10-year-old boy, 9-year-old girl, 7-year-old girl. They all have their own issues, all have their own challenges. But the 10-year-old boy in particular was very difficult. He had reactive attachment disorder, tremendous issues of anger, attachment, trust, night terrors. He was challenging. He would scream every night for 2 hours a night, not wanting to go to bed. He was so argumentative and so defiant, not only towards my wife and I, but for every single child in the house, including his own siblings. It got to the point where when he would walk into the room, everybody else would leave, including his own siblings. And I finally understood the challenges to my own family dynamics when my neighbor called up and said, your son wants to spend the night again tonight. I said, what do you mean again? Well, every weekend he asks if he can come spend the night at our house. I said, oh my gosh. So my son said, what are you doing? You can't ask yourself over to spend the night at people's house all the time. Let me, it's kind of rude to say, can I come spend the night at their house? He said, Dad, I just can't be in the house anymore with that boy. And I thought, my son is struggling with displacement. So we had to reevaluate some things. When a child's placed into your own home, you need to reassure your own children that they're number one. You know, we have what's known as date night, or special time with our kids, where I will take out one of my own kids, one of the DeGarmos, for ice cream, or basketball, or a movie, or a walk, or basketball, whatever it may be. They need that one-on-one time. You need to reassure your own children that you're always going to be your mommy, you're always going to be your daddy. And give attention to your own family members or spouses. As I said earlier this morning, one of my more popular seminars is Marriage and Foster Parenting, Making It Work. Your marriage can absolutely suffer when you're caring for children who need your attention 24 hours a day. When that child is demanding all of your attention, all of your emotion, and demanding it has so many needs, the needs of your own spouse or your own needs may simply be ignored. Go on and on and on and on and on about this. Just keep that in mind. So getting your house ready. Well,
I always have this checklist here. Do we have an alarm clock? Do we have baby crib mattress? Do we have baby bottles, bed made, extra blanket, needed brush, and hair comb, car seat, clothes, space, and extra hangers, diapers, baby wipes, dress? Oh my gosh, we have all these things. Again, I go into this on my website and find all these things there. But this is important. Oh, make sure you got a fire extinguisher in every house at the floor level, please. This is what my house looks like. Those are diapers. Well, that's not really my house, but that's how I feel sometimes. It's not really my house, but again, I had 7 diapers, ladies and gentlemen. At the same time. That's the third time we had 11 kids in the house. 7 in diapers. My wife does hair. I do diaper changing. That's my duty in life. That's my role, that's my position. And there are some days, well, let me tell you, this is how I would often change diapers. You know, I try to do 3 at a time. Line up in the bed, like assembly line of some sorts. And there are some days where I did not get to work on time because some children would not cooperate when I'm changing their diapers. They would decide, you know, oh gosh, I'm just going to go to the bathroom right here and now. And I've had some times where I've gone to work with evidence on my shirt. Good times. Being a foster parent. All right. But you know what? I really want to change it for anything. It is so much fun. Not so much fun at the moment. Can I get a show of hands, please, if you've done this? Right there. Go ahead and do it right there. Just vomit right there. I'll touch it. I was at the governor's house. I wanted to recognize my wife and I's foster parents. Beautiful, fluffy, white carpet. 3-year-old child decided she's going to be sick then and there. Right there, sweetheart. Not the governor's floor carpet. Your checklist may include this: light fixtures working properly in all the rooms and night lights in bedrooms. Make sure you have a night light in the bedroom and the bathroom. Why? Those first few nights of placement, they don't know where the bathroom is. They don't know how to get back to the bedroom. They need that night light, okay? Medicine out of reach, mirrors, you know all this stuff. You know all this stuff. When the child is coming to your home, again, they're feeling trauma. They're feeling anxiety. Stay upon a child upon arrival. They are scared. They're confused. So that first impression you create is so important. I just did an interview with a PBS station about an hour ago, and they asked me, how does a child feel when they come to your house, and what do you do? And I tell them we give them a lot of patience, a lot of compassion, a lot of understanding, a lot of love, and we are just prepared for them to resist sometimes. But we try to create that first impression of just calm and love and openness and understanding. Do not insist. Dr. John, I'm having trouble with my foster child. Why? Well, he's 15 years old. He's been placed in my house for a week now. What's the problem? He won't call me daddy. He won't call me mommy. Never insist that. Please don't do that. And get them a tour of the new home. This is a new home. Your home is a new home. Give them that tour because it's now their new home as well. Do not overwhelm the child. When they come to your home, this is not the time to invite all of your relatives, your grandparents, your boss, and have a big party. No, no, no. It is overwhelming. Do not overwhelm them with all the rules and expectations in your house. There's a time and place to do that, and I write about it in my books, but when they first come to your home, a simple tour, a little playtime, whatever it may be, but do not overwhelm them. Understand, they are concerned. They are afraid. They don't know you. They are scared. They may be afraid of you, and they may not like you. Answer any questions as openly and honestly as you can, and of course, as a former teacher, I believe that reading is so important to a child. Poor Sydney, 7-year-old girl from my house, the girl on Christmas Day, who was in a mental health hospital, 7 years of age, couldn't read or write. We had to start from scratch, 7 years of age. I don't know how many kids I've taught to read. Those first few days, they need time and patience from you. They need you to be patient with them. Because for some of those kids, they're going to be resisting.
For some of those kids, this is when dinner time is, this is when bad time is, this is a consequence to this behavior. We still love you, but it's all about consistency. So many kids have never had any sense of consistency whatsoever in their life. So when you're introducing that to them, they don't get it. They don't understand it. And listen, this is hard for men, I have been told by my wife. Men like to fix things. Men want to find the answers and solutions. My wife has told me this is what I'm supposed to do when she is telling me her problems. And ladies, please tell me if I'm wrong. But when she's expressing her concerns, I'm to do this. Yes, honey. I understand. I love you. Thank you for sharing. Not, oh, come on, I'll take care of this, I'll fix this. No, that's not what she wants. Am I wrong, ladies? I do this. Zip. Spend time with the child, get to know the child, get to know their interests, get to know their hobbies, get to know their passions, their fears, their concerns, their hopes for the future. Get to know them, spend some time with them. That makes them feel valued and important, and somebody actually cares for them. My friends, I have been followed by birth parents. I have been spat upon. I've had false accusations made against me on 2 separate occasions. I've even been threatened with my life. I've had children who've been burned, I told you, who've been raped in their birthdays, etc., etc., etc. I do not judge the biological parents. Now, perhaps inside internally I might do so in some fashion. But when it comes to the child or the biological parent, I never in any way whatsoever pass any kind of judgment upon them. If I tell the child living in my home that their parents did something bad or whatever it may be, I am passing judgment upon that child. And what does that do to the child? And if the child is actually forming an attachment with you, then all of a sudden they have issues of betrayal. Who am I betraying? Do I betray my birth parents? Do I betray you? No. No. We all have our own sins. We all have our own problems. We all have our own challenges. No one is perfect except my wife. And you can tell I said that nice. So no, we never judge biological family. But what we do though, with the biological, I'm all about co-parenting. Like I have a whole seminar on this here. But I try to encourage pictures with the birth parents and the children. But my friends, I never win. Never do it on the phone. No. Why not? I have a good friend who works at the FBI. He actually lives in Romania, Ukraine right now. He's looking for bits of mass destruction. He has 3 different passports. He has a license to kill. I think it's the coolest job ever. He really needs a spy. He showed me on my phone 7 different ways to find something that I deleted. Now, you think, well, if it's deleted, it's gone. You know the old saying, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas? What happens online, what goes online stays online for how long? Forever. You don't believe me? There's a politician who believes she erased 33,000 emails. It came back to haunt her. We have General Petraeus who believed he wiped out his stuff from his computer. The first thing they went to was his computer, General Petraeus. No. When you say something online, even to a birth parent, somebody can very easily and very quickly steal that picture and manipulate that picture, or they can track the child with that picture, the location. This is where child predators come in. This is where human child trafficking come in. I live an hour south of Atlanta, Georgia. Human trafficking is such a huge problem in Atlanta, Georgia. A $92 million industry in Atlanta, Georgia alone. 300,000 kids in child sex trafficking in America. Many of those kids are victims from the foster care system. Are you aware of that? Because children in foster care go online for one reason, and that is to find somebody to love them. Find someone to accept them. You and I may live in an online world. Our children inhabit that world. They inhabit that world. Think about that. Education, entertainment, conversation, socializing. It's all online. I have a huge webinar about the dangers of online training, online dangers, and keeping Washington safe online. It's a 3-hour session.
I'd love to come back and share with you sometime. The child, they have, any idea how the average person, how many times they text an hour? 7 times an hour. Some of you think, well, that's not too bad. Over 3,000 times a month, 3,927 times a month. Average person texts. Kids are online all the time. And they fall victim to child sex predating or sexting. By the way, if you have an 18-year-old child, and they get a big, well, I'll tell you a story. Child in foster care was 18 years of age, in foster care, still in the home. He received a picture of a 16-year-old girl naked on his phone. He is now a registered what? Sex predator. Who taught him that? 16-year-old girl in foster care. She was told by a boy, well, if you send me a naked picture of you, I'll go out with you. So she went in the bathroom, closed the door of the stall, lifted up her shirt, took a picture, put it back down, opened the stall, all within under 90 seconds. Sent it to the guy. At the end of the day, it was all over the school. The website called IHateAmy.com is designed specifically to do one thing. Hate the girl named Amy, 13-year-old girl in foster care. On that website, created by her peers in middle school, people go on there and, how much do you hate Amy from 1 to 10? How ugly is Amy from 1 to 10? How much do you want Amy to die from 1 to 10? How fat is Amy from 1 to 10? And she could read that all day long. And her friends in school would say, hey Amy, I voted for you today, gave you 7, go home and look at it. Hey Amy, I'm going to vote for you later tonight, I'll give you a 9. So is it really any surprise that her foster parents found her hanging in the bathroom? I'm sorry, her closet? These are all dangerous. Cyberbullying chambers. Do not send pictures online of kids. Now, you can do what I do, print out pictures and give the pictures to the caseworkers to deliver to the parents, or on a medium of visitation to give pictures to the parents. Hey, I've got a refrigerator probably like you. My refrigerator is covered with drawings and pictures and report cards of my kids. So many birth parents do not have that. They want that. So I give them the report cards, the drawings they made, the pictures of the kids, the book reports, whatever it may be. During those first few days, allow the time for the child to observe how your family functions. Give them some time to see how your family operates. Again, they're scared. They're worried. They're concerned. They're confused. What are they doing? Why are they having dinner now? What is this homework thing? Why do they wash hands before dinner? Why do they do that? Allow them to encourage that. And encourage your child to participate in family functions. Hey, I have found that my kids, probably like your kids, children need to hear every single day, I love you, please, thank you, you matter, you're valued. Would you please take out this garbage for me? Thank you so much for getting the garbage out. You did such a great job. I'm so appreciative of you. Hey, could you please help me with the dishes? You did such a great job with the dishes. We could not have done this without you. This is great. Can you please be our dishwasher duty person forever? You did this great job. Thank you so much for feeding the dog. You did a great dog. Look how happy the dog is. They need to hear that type of praise. Kids need praise. And most likely, you're the first adult who's ever going to give them words of praise. They need to hear that from you. And allow that child time to grieve in your home. The book, A Different Home, A New Foster Child Story. There's that child crying those first few days of placement. They're concerned. I allow them to cry. They need time to grieve. They're separated from the only family they've ever known. However horrific or however traumatic the experience may have been, however damaging those birth parents could have been to them, they're still their mommy, their daddy, their norm. That is their norm. Your house is not normal for them. Your rules are not normal for them. Your family is not normal for them. The love you provide for them may not be normal for them. They are going to grieve, and give them that time to grieve. They need you to allow them to grieve. Do not stop that process from happening. They need time to understand what's going on in your house, to adjust to new school, new family. They need time to learn how to laugh and time to learn how to play. They need time to be cared for and time to be loved. Allow that child to laugh and play. Give them opportunities to learn how to laugh and play. Because some children, they don't know how to laugh. They don't know how to play. That sounds very simple, but think about it. Somebody's job to play. There's something called play therapy. Playing can be very, very healing, but you need to give them time to play. When you're caring for a child, you're changing the life of that child. Oh! Yeah, well, all right. So, I don't want to go that far just yet. So how about the birth parents? Birth parents are experiencing grief and loss as well. They're experiencing trauma as well. They are experiencing pain as well, and perhaps even guilt. Again, 2 of the 3 have adopted. 3rd generation foster care. Think about that. 9 years of age, prostituted out by her father. Now, how in the world is she going to learn how to be a mother? No possible way. This is why these children are in foster care. When I'm able to care for their children, I'm hopefully able to help this parent heal as well. As a foster parent, you can help your birth parents heal through co-parenting. Again, don't judge them. When the child goes to a visitation, make sure that child is dressed nice. The Sunday clothes, the church clothes, whatever it may be, the best clothing. Be on time. Do not be late for a visitation. Why? Because you're sending a direct message to those birth parents that you don't care. That this is not important for you. What's the saying? To be early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late. And I was told to be late is to be a sin. So we're there early. Now, granted, sometimes the birth parents may not be there early. They may be late. Doesn't matter. You are there early because you're sending a strong message that this is important. That you are valuing this. Please answer their questions. They have questions about the child living in their home. They don't know you. Now again, they may have committed atrocities to these children, but it's still their child. They are concerned about, is my child being cared for? Is my child being loved? Is my child being fed properly? Is my child being abused? Does my child have a bed to sleep in? Are there other siblings? Are there children in the house? Is my child going to school? How is my child doing in school? Answer those questions as openly and honestly as you can. And guess what? You as a foster parent, when you meet those birth parents, you should be asking questions of the birth parents as well. What do you mean, Dr. John? I mean this. Hey, I'm so glad to meet you. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. I'm so glad I could have your child in my home. It's been a wonderful joy. Hey, can I ask you a few questions? Does your child have a favorite toy? What's your child's favorite meal? Does she have a favorite dessert? What's her bedtime? Can she swim? Is there a special stuffed animal that she might have? Are there special dates in her calendar she might? Why I'm asking these questions? Not only do I get the information, but I'm showing the birth parents this. You're the expert. This is your child. I value your opinion. I want to help your child as best I can, and you can help me do that. When I do that, when we do that, we help to break down those walls that those birth parents have. Because some of those birth parents are judging you. They may be filled with their own anger, their own guilt, their own resentment. They may not be at a point yet where they've accepted that they may have made some poor choices. So in effect, they're going to place the blame upon somebody else. Denial. And that denial, that blame is going to be placed upon you. So sometimes birth parents may be angry at you and have resentment towards you, even though they may have never met you. So when you're trying to work alongside of them in a positive and pleasant and open way, you're helping to heal them as well. Again, reunification is so important. It's what we're all here for. In that perfect world, there will be no foster care. That's sadly the case. So we try to have this, we tried for reunification. So you need to work with them. When we have contact with the birth parents on phone, sometimes they may not be able to have visitation in person, so sometimes we do it over phone. It is so important
that you monitor that conversation. This is what it looks like in my house. Hey, so-and-so, how are you doing today? Great, blah, 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 blah. Johnny's doing so great. Hey, Johnny's here to talk to you. Just want to let you know I'm going to put you on speaker. Speaker, and then I'm in the kitchen, and I'm monitoring the conversation. Or I'm in the room monitoring the conversation. Folding laundry, doing dishes, working on a new book, whatever it may be. Why am I doing that? Because I need to monitor and supervise that communication to make sure nothing harmful or hurtful has been said. Sometimes birth parents may maybe be angry towards you, towards their child, towards the system, and some things may be said, and sometimes you may need to step in and say, you know what, we can't talk to the child that way. I have watched children crumble emotionally while having a conversation with a parent on the phone who's belittled them the entire time. So I've had to step in and intercede in that conversation. And when that happens, I just say, hey, you know what, we can't talk to the child that way, I'm sure you understand. If you continue to do that, we'll have to end the conversation. And then sometimes I end the conversation. And I'm always documenting that. Again, documentation is so important. You have to document everything. What are you documenting? You're documenting how the child's doing in school. You're documenting what the child did and how the therapy session went, how the counseling session went. Child fell down and skinned the knee. Had a little bloody knee. Guess what? You better document that. Why? Child goes to a visitation and mom starts blaming you. Look what happened. Well, no, here's the document. This is really what happened. All those things. There's so much. Child sick at school, child sick at home. You can document that. I go on and on and on. Documentation is so important. I recently had a. This is our second Genesis. Sounds kind of strange, doesn't it? Child's name was Genesis. This is the second time we had a Genesis, and here I am, you know, being silly me, and I actually asked the caseworker, is there a sister named Leviticus or Deuteronomy? So this is our second Genesis, and Genesis' parents were professional criminals. Dad had arrest warrants in 6 different states in 20 years in 6 different states. Professional criminal. He was in jail. Mom was semi-pro. She only had 3 arrest warrants in 3 different states. Mom went to our only grocery store in town, stole a bunch of formula and diapers, stole a brand new truck out of the parking lot, very, very high in drugs, and then drove to the sheriff's department and said, hey, with a baby in the car, hey, I want to visit my husband. And the sheriff, is a good friend of mine, said, sure, I'm so glad you're here. Come on in. We'll make a room for you. Stay a while. Sheriff called me up a few months later and said, hey, just want to let you know that Genesis' father's out of jail. He has this trick where he will urinate all over himself and then claim that he has this medical condition, and these small town jails can't handle it, so they have to release him until a bigger jail comes along. And the sheriff said, so if he comes to your house, because everybody knows the DeGarmos, everybody knows the foster family, you know, which can be a good thing. I've actually had some of my birth parents, some of my former foster kids say to their friends, hey, you know, if your kids go in foster care, always ask for the DeGarmos. They're really good people. Kind of a compliment. So the sheriff said, if he comes to your house, don't answer the door. I said, now come on, you've been to my house several times. You know that every single door is wall-to-wall glass. All he has to do is look at any wall, any window or door, because it's all windows, and say, there they are. He said, okay, well, that's true. Well, if he comes to your door, then give him the shot. Okay. Do you have a gun? I said, no, I don't have a gun. And this was his response. That's going to be a bit of a problem. What do you mean that's going to be a problem? Well, if he comes, just give me a call. Yeah, I'll be calling you. Life of a foster parent. You experience those feelings of grief and loss. You also experience something called secondary traumatic syndrome. Compassion fatigue. Anybody know what compassion fatigue is? Compassion fatigue is very, very similar to post-traumatic stress disorder, but it is different in the situation. Compassion fatigue is when you experience stress from caring for somebody else. It's something that caregivers often experience. Very similar to post-traumatic stress disorder in the fact that you will feel tremendous anxiety and stress and burnout and exhaustion. And it happens for a number of reasons. It could happen, compassion fatigue could happen to you when you experience something, when a child comes in your home and experiences, for example, my wife has given me permission to tell you this story. The first time we had a girl come to our home, Sydney, who had been raped over and over again, my wife experienced her own flashbacks. Between the ages of 7 and 9, my wife was raped by her cousin over and over again. My wife comes from a large Catholic family in Australia, and in their family, we don't discuss these things. We're going to brush under the carpet. We're going to pretend it never existed because this is our family. We're not going to acknowledge it. And my wife never acknowledged it until we had a child placed in her home. So now my wife is struggling, not only caring for this child who has been raped and having flashbacks, but my wife's own memories, which were never acknowledged. And now my wife is seeking therapy for the child and seeking therapy for herself. And how does that do for my wife? Yeah, tremendous time of anxiety, compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue also occurs to you when you do not give yourself time to grieve. When you have child after child after child after child after child in your home and you do not allow yourself time to grieve the heartbreak and the feelings of loss that you're feeling, because there's a placement, another call, and you got to take it, and after a while, that causes compassion fatigue. Think about the words. Fatigue. Complete exhaustion from compassion, from caring so much. Compassion fatigue also can happen when you are listening to and living with the same type of stories over and over and over again. When you have these children who are living in your home who have these tremendous horror stories, and after a while, it wears you down. That is compassion fatigue. And then foster parents experience something that I experienced about 3 years myself. I hit the wall. I was burned out. I was just so tired. My wife and I went a stretch, I told you earlier this morning, we went a stretch of 5 years without a date. We went 5 years, no joke, with at least one child in our house. A day a child would leave, we'd have another placement that day or the next day. That happened for 5 years. I was burned out. I was exhausted. I was tired. I was worn out. I was frustrated with the system. I was angry. I was just so tired. And I asked myself, actually I didn't ask myself, I said this, I can't do this anymore. I need a break. And guess what? It's okay. It's okay to take a break. You have to look after yourself. You have to recharge your own batteries. You have to take care of your own family. When the child leaves your home, when your own children leave your home, and it's just you and your spouse, you do not want to look at your spouse and see a stranger, because you have been caring for so many children in your house without a break, without time alone, or without time with your spouse. There are times when you simply need to say, you know what, I just need to have a break. That's why I'm a big fan of respite care. I would encourage you all to use respite care if you have it available. And sometimes, do not feel guilty for using respite care or having a child placed into their home for a short time. Maybe you need to go to a wedding, maybe a funeral, maybe you need to go to see another family member in another state. These are opportunities when you can use respite care. And it can be an opportunity for you to recharge your batteries. It can also be an opportunity for the child, too, to recharge their batteries from your family. Because your family can be, if your family like mine, can be a little overwhelming at times as well. So respite care is okay. But burnout and stress are very similar to grief and loss in that you will likely experience it. Have any of you, please raise your hands, have any of you felt a moment where you thought, I am just tired? Have any of you felt where I just can't do this anymore? Okay, here's one. Have any of you felt this?
I'm angry with the system. Please look around. Please look around. You are not alone. You are not alone. You are not alone when you're feeling grief and loss. You're not alone when you're feeling burnout. You're not alone when you say, I can't do this anymore. You're not alone when you're frustrated with the system. That is part of foster parenting. It is draining. It is exhausting. It is life-challenging. I just told the group on the TV earlier today that every child that's come through my home has made me a better person in some way. Yeah, it's challenging, but it is so rewarding. I am a better husband for my wife. I'm a better parent to my own children. I'm a better member of community. I'm a better person at work. I'm a better person overall for every single child that's come through my home. And yes, some of them have kicked my butt, like I told you earlier. Those 3 kids, the one who had the Guinness Book World Records of bowel movements, 27, woo, oh my gosh. And the one screaming every morning, the car tipped over, yeah, they were exhausting me, and I felt a sense of relief because I felt I can actually eat my Fruity Pebbles in silence now. But I still did grieve them. I felt burned out. I felt grief. I felt guilt. I felt a sense of relief at the same time. You experience a whole set of emotions that your friends and family members don't appreciate or understand. I have this guy at church. He's a lawyer. He's an attorney. He used to say to me this. When he'd see me coming up the steps with the kids. He used to say to me this. You need more kids. He'd always laugh when he'd say it. And then one day we walked up with 11 kids and he looked at me and said, I am so sorry I said that to you. This is what your friends see. A revolving door of children coming and going. Maybe they know their names. Maybe they know their faces. But they don't remember. They just see kids coming and going. They do not see, and they think, oh, you're a little bit strange to do that. Because you are. They do not see when the doors close at night and you are caring for a child who's screaming because mom did not come for the visitation. Or dad went to the visitation and said some bad things. Or they had to go to a court hearing. Or they don't want to go to the therapy, the counselor. Or they're withdrawing. Or their body's shaking because they're going through withdrawals of drugs. Have you had any of those babies in your home? They do not see that. They do not see you up at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning getting a new placement. Or holding a child when the child's crying because the visitation did not go well. Or they're suffering in school, whatever it may be. They do not see you on the weekends worn out, exhausted because you're trying to care for this child who's running up and down your halls. If your house is like my house, let me tell you a story. So a couple years ago when we hit that 11th child for the 3rd time, my wife and I said, yeah, we need a bigger house. So we actually went and tried to find it. We actually tried to buy another house, a bigger house. So we put the house on the market, and a real estate agency came to our house and said, Dr. DeGarmo, your house really isn't ready to sell yet. What do you mean? We really think you need to go and paint every wall in your house. Why? Well, there's marks in your house, there's crayons, there's scribbles, there's holes in the walls. I said, what's the point? I'm a foster parent. Tomorrow there'll be color, there'll be crayons on my walls as well. Do any of you have crayons in your walls in your house? We built our house. So my wife and I, instead, what we did was we opened up a residential home for boys in foster care called Never Too Late. But when we first built our house, we're in our dream house now. We first built the house. This was our 3rd. After our 2nd placement, we have beautiful hardwood floors in every wall. And I remember a child, the house is brand new, and she dragged the bed across the wall, and massive gouges in the hardwood floor. And at that point, I was like, oh my gosh, what are you doing to my house? And now I just think, yeah, okay, oh well. You know. It's one of the challenges that your friends and family members will never get. My parents, and I've written 10 books. I've got a doctorate in this. I travel the world, all this stuff. And my parents will say things like, you can't save every child. How much longer will you do this for? Aren't you tired? You need to spend some time with your own kids. Not what I want to hear from my parents. My sister. I'm not from Georgia. You probably listen to my accent. I'm not from Georgia. I have not embraced their accent by any means whatsoever. But my kids have a strange combination of Australian accent, a Michigan accent, and a Southern accent, and it's really kind of strange. But my sister, so the phrase in the South is, God bless her. Well, God bless my sister. She is not having children. She has a dog. And we had 9 kids in the house one time, and my sister is telling me, she calls up, she never asks about any kids whatsoever, it's always about her own life, her own story, and she said to me, her dog was sick, and it was like a full-time job taking care of her dog. I told my wife, and my wife said, give me that phone, call her up, I'll tell her about 9 full-time jobs that I got, plus my own full-time job. She's no conception. No conception whatsoever. A friend of mine at church, you may have the same type of friend. One child, $22,000 a year, private school, husband's a dentist, rich family, she doesn't work at all. Her statement is, I can't be a foster parent because I don't have enough time. Really? Have you heard that? People say to me, how do you do it? I say, I'm on the 32-hour day. That's how foster parents are. We're on the 32-hour day. What do you mean? We have to have 32 hours in our day to do what we do. Because when you think about your own job, and then you come home to that laundry, to that cooking, to the dishes, to the homework, to the bath time, to the reading the book time, to homework time, to disciplining children, and then where in the world are you going to find any time for yourself or any time for your spouse? That's when my wife falls into bed at 10:30 at night, and she starts playing what? Candy Crush. Yes. For Easter, over Lent, she gave up Candy Crush. I said, for 40 days? Yes. I said, oh my gosh, my life's in trouble because this is the only way my wife relaxes. I said, isn't there any like Candy Destroy or Candy Annihilate? Gotta destroy something here. She just discovered Netflix. As a foster parent, my friends, I want you to understand it is very normal for you to experience grief and loss. It is very normal for you to experience compassion fatigue. It is very normal for you to experience burnout, stress, question the system, to feel frustrated, to feel angry, to feel confused, to feel sad. Those are all normal. But I said earlier this morning, if you do not care for yourself, there is no way in the world you can care for a child in need. No way. You have to put yourself first. Sometime. Foster parenting is a lot like gardening. A garden needs a seed. A seed needs good, rich soil. That soil is your home, your family. A seed needs sun, warmth. That is your love. A seed needs rain. Those are your tears you cry for the child. I have learned as a gardener, I might never see that seed blossom into something beautiful. You might not see that child blossom. But I can promise you this, the child will bloom into something much more beautiful by the family and by the love and by the tears you provided that child. Here's the last thing I want you to remember. Years from now, the child in your home may not remember your face. Years from now, that child may not remember your name. But, and this is where I promise you, but the child will remember one thing. For a time in her life, and maybe the only time in her life, somebody loved her. And that somebody is you. You may not change the world. we as foster parents may not change the world, but for the child in your home, their world is changed by what you do. If you're like me, you tell people, no, I'm not a superhero, no, I'm not an angel. My friends, I'm here to tell you that you're wrong. You are a superhero. You are an angel. Because most in society will not do what you are doing. There are more children being placed in foster care and not enough people saying, I will make sacrifices in my life to care for these children who are in such desperate need. I do not have the time. I do not want to have my heart broken. I couldn't give the kids back. Excuse after excuse. While you say, I will devote my life to these children. I will make sacrifices. I may even lose some friendships. I will have my heart broken time and time and time again. Because right now, in Springfield, Massachusetts, there is a child who is praying, please help me. And that is what you do. And you inspire me. I get inspired and I keep going from when I meet and listen to your stories. So I want to thank you from the complete bottom of my heart. Thank you for all that you do to help children in need. Hey, before we go, take your phone there and get a clip of that, okay? There's my website, the Foster Care Institute. You will find so many resources on there, articles, information, webinars, videos, lots of stuff. It's for you to use. There's my Twitter, my Facebook page. I'm always posting information all day long about information that I want to know about. There's my email address. My friends, I do not say this to you lightly. Please listen to me. I don't say this lightly. If you have concern, if you're struggling with something, I would ask you to please contact me. I have devoted my entire life to helping you. I want to help you. So please do not hesitate to contact me if I can be of any help to you in any way. On my website, you can sign up for my newsletter. Or go out there at my table, put down your email, sign up for my newsletter. I will send you a whole host of stuff on there that will be helpful to you. And there's my membership there too for my website. I hope you take advantage of it. You'll love the online training webinars. And there's that book and lots of other books there as well. My friends are going to be out there. I hope to spend time and listen to your questions, answer questions you may have, sign books. I do take credit card if you have questions about that. And again, I want to thank CHD, and I want to thank all of you people. You've been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. John DeGarmo, and of course we cannot let him go until we officially welcome you to our CHD family.
All right.
Positively life-changing.
I love it. I love